as we now make our way down. We have green light racing, folks. Green light racing. Off they go. Eco in the lead, but only just. We've got the Aston Martin in the left-hand lane. Oh, somebody's gone off. That's Duggan over there in the background. Duggan's gone off by the looks of things. The two pink cars, that's Mackenzie getting in up tight there. The McLaren gets overtaken. Mackenzie on the inside of the McLaren there. They give way for each other, and most of the cars go through safely there. But I do think Duggan, there's some contact there between the two cars, but everybody's safe except for what looks like Duggan.
Wow. That was actually really well done by Leon Leroux and Craig going through their comments. So I spoke about going side by side through that. They both gave each other a little bit of space, but I think Leon's been too cautious because have a look at it. It's like Cornet's now got that overtake past down. We've got a big incident there now as well. It's like Jonathan's going to be very busy early on. Your 4 cars get involved in that.
Oh no, Van Rooyen and Mackenzie go off. Van Rooyen and Mackenzie go around wide at the bottom of the hairpin there. That's what we were talking about earlier on. Such a tricky corner there. Van Rooyen still trying to rejoin, and Mackenzie manages to get back on. Van Rooyen now firmly near the back of the field.
I think that's part of the problem is like if someone runs wide, they're coming back on track and it's just creating such mayhem because everyone's bunched up. I've never seen 5 or 6 cars all weaving. It looks like they're trying to find parking in a Dodger market. I think further down, like you said there, they're running through turn 3. I think if you get that lined up, you've got a great opportunity.
Oh, no, they touch! They touch! Oh, my goodness me. And Riddell gives Skitter a bit of a nudge there under braking. And Bellingen now side by side with Riddell. Bellingen's got the line there. And Bellingen gets the position. Riddell...
Sorry, I'm just going to say that's not a place to overtake. And I think he realized it and put his nose in the wrong place. Then couldn't brake hard enough to get out of it. So...
We use the information we have, isn't it? As Ian Mackenzie has a look now into turn 1. Goes alongside. He's alongside. He's just got to get him under brakes now. Yes, he does. Ian Mackenzie qualifying well earlier, but he backs out of the maneuver. Surprisingly, gets it down the inside this time. It's tight. Mackenzie gets ahead, but now under massive pressure from Hendricks and Hampson now, who is giving Buck an absolute hard time. I think Buck's car might be damaged.
Well, I tell you, that was actually...
trying really hard to pull up alongside now. He made the move start from the beginning of the previous section. Goes down the inside now. Bernard King's got this one. The McLaren's going to have to yield. And yes, he does a beautiful maneuver planned from way, way back. Bernard King gets second position.
Can I just also say well done to Cornet there, because that is what I said earlier. You've really got to trust the driver that you're pitching the move on to give you that space and not to turn in and close the door. We saw the move earlier with Hampson. He had the move done before the corner, so it was easy enough. But interesting to see the onboard shots there, the different lines that the guys can take. Some of these corners, you do have different approaches into it, and it's one of the things I like about the circuit. But that is not a place to overtake. That is so naughty-ish.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
That is not good. Duggan and Riddell there.
But you see how far up ahead Duggan was, and he gave him position back. So I think he knows that he was guilty as charged on that. Thanks to Lorenzo for always bringing all the race action that we often miss, making sure we get to see it again. Oh, contact!
That is not good. That is not good. The McLaren having a look down the inside. They're pushing the Lexus of King wide. They're now King losing 2 positions for the price of 1.
Yeah, thanks for the replay. Another little incident. But Duggan hasn't given up. And you know what? Nico Roots has been brought into this. I just want to say, okay, thank goodness it's now been done. Because,
oh my goodness.
But this is the 5th time in a row that Riddell has outbraked himself through that corner every single time into that tight, heavy braking, and then the left-hander.
He's trying to take it back, and he gives him a nudge. Oh no, Riddell tries to take it back, and that was a silly move there. He should have just let that one go, and he gives Duggan a touch. Oh no!
That's Roots. So Roots obviously avoiding action to get out of that little incident, has taken the escape route, and he's come full flat, hurtling along there, not realizing that there's actually a car on track taking the racing line. So Nico could have gained plenty of positions there, and instead he's gone and got himself into a horrible little mess. So that's a real pity. We also see Van Rooyen getting a drive-through penalty. I'm assuming that might be, I don't know if Jonathan's online.
Yeah, that's track issued. Game issued for exceeding track limits.
Okay.
What, underfuel your car?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite easy if you calculate it to the limit, but I mean, he was I think he put it on the penalty. As soon as he got the penalty, perhaps he thought it was a stop go or something that he had to, or drive through.
Yeah,
I'm not 100% certain, but he did stop in.
well, let's just not worry about him and just worry about the decision that was Craig Eco, because that was an unbelievable drive for first position. Brilliant. And there was Leon Leroux. Ernest, remember we were saying he's hanging around in the back, watching everything play out. He goes, yeah, I know what it's like to be on the podium. Second position in the Aston. While everyone was making mistakes and falling by the wayside, he's been super consistent. Then obviously Bernard King, who was in second for most of the race, down in third. Good racing though, Ernest.
Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me. Don't play that. Take you down, don't play that. Money, me, $2. Telling you now, just pay back. Fuck that. Ask him now, what's stage at? I've been going to the top and I got what they not, so I know that they hate that. But I'm on that. All these men can zone out. And all these men can tell you what I did and they twist and they bust till I fall out. But I know that, so I keep what I'm doing cause I own that. And I stay in the lab and I kill everything, but I don't ever move from my phone. So I'm finally back in my home. I'm working, I saw no other that's why I had me a drum. Don't answer my phone, now just leave it there in that phone. All in, can't beat me up cause I'm back in my zone now.
Having a great strap and almost banging wheels.
Cause I'm back in my zone now.
Don't get greedy, no way. That's good, settle down.
We are back for round 8, and this time we are in Hungary for Hungaroring, the round 8 in this year's ATK Pro Series. And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what we're talking about, this is the premier sim racing series in South Africa, the ATK Pro Series, and we're partnered by Kyalami 9 Hour and Motorsport South Africa. Now we've also got some sponsors on board: AMD, Elgato, Corsair, and of course this time joining us for the first time, welcome aboard, Logitech. Today is going to be a special day, and thankfully drivers can look forward to a very sunny Hungary. Unlike the last couple of races, no rain is to be expected and sunny skies all around. This circuit here is one of the fastest built circuits ever, but it's not just about being built fast, it's also about going very, very fast around very, very tight corners. And someone that I'm sure can give us a little bit more insight on that is the man that's joining me in our virtual commentary booth tonight, Marius Roberts. Welcome to round 8, sir.
This is very romantic, eh? It's starting to feel like a date. It's just the two of us. I'm going to break out in song. Just the two of us. Now, listen, I love this awesome little visual we're looking at now as we start building up to round 8 at Hungaroring, because it is a fantastic track. And you're right about the conditions. We've had rain in round 6 and round 7. They raced into the dark. But this is pretty much a set of courses given us what the guys would expect if they're racing this time of the year in Hungary. It sits in a little valley, so visibility for spectators is really, really good. You can see most of the track from pretty much anywhere on that circuit layout, but it's usually very, very warm, very dusty as well, because the track isn't used all that often, only when the big circuses come to town, like Formula One, MotoGP, and of course when ATK rolls in with the Pro Series. So It is. It's an interesting layout for me. I mean, we mentioned it 2 weeks ago, Barcelona, that they're very, very similar circuits in terms of fast and flowing. Not many overtaking opportunities. That shot we saw of the straights, I mean, that straight was lengthened. It's now nearly a K long to try and give guys an opportunity for an overtake. And your best place is probably going to be into that hairpin at turn 1, which was also tightened. A couple of the changes that they made from their original circuit in '86 when it started. So I love it. I'm quite keen to see how the GT car is going to go here, because I think Formula One can be a little bit boring, yet when you've watched the races, there's always been drama and action because it is quite a high deg circuit. It's heavy on the cars. The conditions are always warm. So I'm looking forward to some cracker racing. I mean, actually mentioned on social media, I'm hungry for racing in Hungary. It's going to be good fun.
All this talk has got me hungry for action. The action starts soon. We're going to jump straight into Pro-Am in a couple of minutes. The guys did seed yesterday, and the Pro-Am guys will kick off shortly. The Pro guys up at around 5 o'clock. And we were saying earlier on, Marius, we've got a slightly smaller grid today, but also a nice mix of names, because some of the guys also did upgrade or migrate to the Pro division with some shuffling of the deck by the looks of things.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I must admit, I was a little bit sad when I saw that. You know, it's a 12-round series, and, you know, we started off, everyone was all motivated and fired up. And I understand that people drop out as you go along, because there is now real racing is back, and I suppose people's lives have returned to normal as we're dealing with COVID. But, yeah, we've got 18 cars. Yeah, we were running with 30. So I'm hoping we'll see some of the guys come back. Obviously, pros is where it's all at. But the Pro-Am drivers first in the last couple of rounds have really delivered some amazing races. And like you said, stacking of the deck, we've had different race winners. So for me, that's what I've really enjoyed about watching the Pro-Ams, is seeing guys grow throughout the series. And we know the step up from Pro-Am to pros is a massive one. Just looking at the seeding times, you know, you've got Jordan Sherritt, who's the only guy to break into the 42s yesterday. But, you know, our fastest qualifier in Pro-Ams is doing 44. So that's massive around a circuit like that. And we know it's a big jump up. We saw Junior McCall, you know, now racing in pros consistently. And there you're finding him mid-pack, whereas he was quite a dominant force in Pro-Ams. But this is what the series is so good for me about, is that it gives guys opportunities in this to learn their craft, to improve their abilities. And, you know, you've got that dangling carrot, the incentive to get into pros. So I know we're going to have great racing, even though it is a smaller field. Means points can be picked up, because we know the top 10 in Pro-Ams pick up some points towards the overall title. But I love the fact that it's a mixed bag in terms of manufacturers too.
Indeed, a mixed bag of manufacturers, and mixed bag is exactly what we have when we look at the championship standings at the moment. As we go into this round, Zahir is still on top with Porsche 1, 2, 3, 4. The bag only starts getting mixed a little bit with position number 5. That's Bruno Cadli over there, Cadile, and behind him the younger of the Sherritt brothers. But it's nice to see in our seeding yesterday, we saw that Esser, Jadwat, Oliphant, McCall, and now Sherritt are all mixing it up for that first place. Sherritt being clear of everybody by over half a second. That's just unbelievable to see.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm also a little bit anxious about getting too excited about what we see in those seeding runs, because, Ernest, you know, we've seen it from round to round. The guys kind of do enough to know that they've qualified for pros, and then they don't want to show their hand. We're going to see things mixing it up. I mean, I don't believe Zaire is going to be as far down as he was in seeding. So, yeah, I worry a bit. I mean, Jordan's obviously going with the attitude of, hey, I'm going to scare you guys. We know he's at pace, even though he's sitting in 6th overall. He's had a couple of rounds that he's missed. But don't forget, things are already going to shift around when we get to the end of the season, because the guys got to throw away 2 rounds. So for the guys that have had bad races, we know there was load shedding 2 weeks ago, so a lot of guys obviously didn't get to race, didn't get to score points. That'll be an obvious throwaway round for them. But, you know, for the guys up at the top, they're going to have to start throwing away like wins. They're going to throw away 2nd and 3rd places. So expect things to move around quite a bit. So I don't want to read too much into seedings, because yes, we've been wrong with this before, and the guys in the pro level for sure are at that strategy point now, whereas the guys in Pro-Am, you know, there's no strategy. They are going flat out to try and qualify and seed for pros, whereas the guys, you know, Pro-Am, it's like as fast as we can go, whereas the pros start playing games. A lot of them are part of teams, so the guys are working on different setups, different strategies, and they might use that Saturday run for seeding to figure out what's going to work best for qualifying on race day today. So yeah, it's going to be interesting as always.
Indeed, the smart thing to do would be to set the seeding run, qualify in the group that you want to qualify in, and walk away.
Yeah.
We do see a couple of guys staying in the lobbies all day long. We see a couple of guys doing exactly that. Sometimes you see certain guys, I'm not going to mention names, just coming into the lobby and having a look-see to see what the other guys are doing. So you're 100% right. Strategy plays a massive part, especially as we now have passed the midway mark of the season.
Yeah. But it's also, I've seen for me some nice movement. You look there, Jason Webb in 14th. He missed the first, I think, 2 or 3 rounds of the series, but has been super consistent, massively unlucky, getting involved in a lot of incidents that weren't his doing, but a big jump up of 6 places. We saw the same now with Jordan. So those guys have got pace, have been consistent, and there have just been some bad things that have happened that have seen them not racing every round, not scoring the points. So nice to see the movement up and down the list like that. But you mentioned Bruno. He's been fantastic from a Merc perspective, because we spoke right at the beginning of the season that Porsche seemed to be the obvious choice of car to go for, being super consistent around most of the tracks. The Merc seemed to be beneficial at tracks that we know like Monza or high-speed circuits, but they've certainly got the team, the car set up really well, and he's doing a great job in that car, and obviously maybe helping the fact that Jason's there as well. So that's really good to see. And then also for Steyn, like the first of Ferraris in the top 8, we don't see too much of them in the top 10 in the races, but it's consistency again that's seeing him sit there. And I think the best sim racers in the country, for you to be sitting in the top 10 in a series like this means you know what you're doing. You know how to pedal a car.
Indeed, especially a car that's not quite as fast as the others. I've spent a lot of time in that car, and this circuit, it does work, but it's not going to be the quickest car. And as you can see, the next one, Byron Walker down in 25th position. Also no slouch, but the second of the Ferrari drivers. So well done to Steyn there for making it into the top 10. And of course, the top 10 guys get invited to the year-end finale. And that's what these guys are chasing after. They're all looking for a top 10 spot. So Jason Abschmeyer, the man currently in number 10, has got it all to play for, as Kieran Patterson right behind him looking to get into that top 10 as well.
Yeah, that's sad for me with Jason, because we know he's normally in the races. He's sitting like in the top 4 and 5, but he was a load shedding victim 2 weeks ago. He's had 1 or 2 like unlucky races as well that's seen him drop down. So for me, he should be sitting a lot higher up. So this is a pressure race now, because guys like that know they need to come back. And if I think, looking back at his seeding run yesterday, I think he was done in 8th or 9th place. So again, I don't believe that'll be his true pace. But yeah, as we start getting closer to this is the final race, guys are going to start really ramping things up to finish in that top 10.
Indeed. Well, we've got to ramp things up a little bit and get started. We'll be right back after this break, and we'll see you guys for the qualifying. we are live straight into qualifying on board now with Werner Joubert in the Mercedes-Benz in 6th place. The guys still have 18 minutes, 45 seconds of qualifying left, so still plenty action to come. But again, nice to see, we're just talking about those Mercedes-Benz, Marius. Nice to see Werner Joubert in the mix there. Let's hope he can keep it there.
Yeah, listen, that's the normal story with ProAMs. I love it because every manufacturer is well represented, and that is what GT racing is all about. I mean, you were talking off air earlier about how exciting it's been to have the GT racing back on. A lot of racing going on this weekend with MotoGP, and that is what the whole system was about, was to find a way to ensure manufacturers are all running on an even keel, so they've got all of the little settings to ensure that you go to a circuit and all the cars have an equal opportunity. And when you go and watch that racing, this is what it's going to look like. You have Audis and Mercs and Porsches and McLarens and everyone having a go. It's just when we get to the pros, the guys are kind of a little bit Porsche dominant. So this for me is what I really enjoy about the Pro-Am run. Don't get confused. I know it's saying on your screen 6:02 p.m. It's 3 o'clock here in South Africa. But I mean, that's the nice thing about racing in summer in Europe. You know, the sun's going to go down pretty late. So the guys are going to get the best of the track conditions. Sadly, Jonathan Bentz isn't with us because I would have liked some of that insight in terms of what the track temperature is and the track conditions right now. But from my understanding, it's running hot. It's running Hungary as it normally is. So optimal conditions for guys in qualifying. Nothing for them to worry about other than just going as fast as they can and smashing a good lap time.
Well, the information we did get from our man Jonathan, who's unfortunately not with us today, is that the circuit is optimum. The track temperature is at absolute optimum. They got a tiny bit of wind there, 3 kilometers of wind, and the weather is sunny skies, well, at least cloudy skies, with no rain for the foreseeable future. So no surprises for the drivers then as we watch Werner Joubert bounce his way through the chicane over there. That chicane there, I think he's going to catch a lot of guys out. Big sausage curves over there. But the Mercedes is the one car that can really grab these chicanes here, or these curbs here, as we see Werner doing exactly that and really mounting that car on the curbs. That is where the Mercedes finds its big advantage over the other cars. But will that advantage be enough? Still in 6th place, waiting for him to complete the lap. Now into the fast right-hander. It looks slow, but that's actually a second gear right-hander over there. And then into the final, or the second last corner now, up the hill. Such technical corners these are, all of them, flowing one into the next, and now the final corner now onto the main straight.
Ernest, especially this last complex, because it's those corners you got to hang on to. You got to be super patient in terms of at what point you start coming back on the throttle and how much you working that throttle. And I think it's very easy to get a little bit excited, especially when you're chasing on the back of someone. You get in the power a little bit too early, it ends up pushing you wide. You're forcing the understeer situation in corners like that. So I love the way it ends, because also you've got a 1 kilometer straight, literally. So it's very important that you get the drive out of those last corners spot on. So I like it. I like a slow approach to a long straight, because it's a very technical layout. But big undulations here as well. A lot of times you're going to be heavy on the braking on a downhill section as well. And we've seen that even in Barcelona, where the guys were making mistakes where they were braking in the downhill section. If you're just off the brake marker, you're running yourself into trouble there as well. So very cool track for me. I love it. Fast flowing. I mean, it's interesting. The racing drivers all refer to it like the Monaco without the city limits, without the buildings, because it is narrow, no runoff. It's a little bit like, I suppose, Neuschleife as well. If you do make a mistake, inevitably you're going to end up running into something, because there is no major runoff through the twisty sections.
Indeed, and these guys are going to want to maximize that pace through this narrow section. As you said, the track is very narrow. It's possible to maintain speed through here, but what is that speed going to look like when you've got, in this case, 15 other cars surrounding you, as we now go on board with Sean Buck over there in second place at the moment, just 0.2 of a second behind Benjamin Lodger there in first place. Benjamin, definitely someone I think to watch out for. He's always got fantastic one-lap pace, but I know for a fact he's working on his race pace. He's going to have to do that well, because he's got Corne Strauss in third place as well. And Corne Strauss, we know, is wanting to come back this week to get a top 3 finish, because he missed out so closely on that top 3 finish last week.
Oh man, I mean, I think he's still kicking himself 2 weeks ago at Barcelona, where, if you remember, he got given a 5-second time penalty. I think it was meant to be added, and instead he thought he had to come and do a stop, go on a pit stop. So it's like that ended up dropping him way down the list. But that McLaren had impressive pace. And it also looked like it was quite an easy car to get rotated and driven. I mean, the guys were all talking about, there we go, have a look at the McLaren now. Beautiful looking car. We know the same thing with the Aston Martin. It's actually a very stable car to drive with the direction changes. I think that's what you want, and that's where the guys tend to complain a little bit about the Porsche, that it can be quite twitchy and easily unsettled. And here it is about being smooth over the rhythm. There, a great example of coming over that sausage curb. I think your entry is crucial. You can be a little bit more aggressive on the curb on the exit, but how you line it up coming in is what is going to be so vital, because that can knock you offline and unsettle the car very easily.
Fantastic observation there, Marius. I confirmed to the drivers this week that the second curb is indeed the one that unsettles the car the most. The first one you can grab quite hard. I spoke to Bashir Jadwat, one of our premier guys in the pro class, and he was talking to me about that first curb. It looks big, it looks intimidating, but if you get it right, it's not a problem. The second one, on the other hand, if you hit that incorrectly with a wheel, it's a big problem. So there's a bunch of places on here where the car can get unsettled, and certainly the second half of that chicane is one of those places. A place where the car doesn't get unsettled is this very short straight over here, and although they've lengthened it, it still doesn't seem that long.
Well, it's just under a kilometer. So if you go and look at Kyalami, I mean, Kyalami runs a very similar length in terms of straight. So a lot of opportunity, but this is what makes it so great. We just cut away there, but that heavy braking into turn one. And what you'll see there as well is a whole bunch of different lines you can take through turn one, which I really enjoy. They've gone and tightened it, but you can run out wide and ensure that you're tightening it, or you can go 2 cars through there, because you then head into the little downhill section where things get very, very busy. And we've seen 2 cars can run through those sort of sections as well. So I love that, where you've got technical run onto a straight, a good enough straight for overtaking, and then a really heavy braking point for turn one. So I know if Jonathan was here, he probably would have given the riot act to the guys about no incidents going into turn one. I'm less worried here, because there is depth, there is runoff. If you're late on braking, you can pull straight and you're still on the track. So I don't think we should see too many issues here with guys falling over each other into turn one. It's one of those natures in terms of how it's laid out.
Look, I must admit, I'm a little bit concerned about that as we go on board with Raymond Duggan here. I am a little bit concerned about that first corner, but I think most of these guys have demonstrated the maturity, especially, surprisingly, in the Pro-Am category. They've demonstrated the maturity to not get too tangled in the first corner. But someone that is now going faster is Bellingham in first position. Bellingham is just now pitted, but he has taken the top spot there. Loggia is now just under 0.2 of a second behind him. And Corne Strauss also, as well as Albertine. So all of them within half a second, less than half a second of each other is the top 5. And this front pack of the Pro-Am division starting to show a little bit of a competitive streak there. I'm on board with Loggia on my separate monitor here. I've got the game running separately here to check out, to get some sneak information on the side here, Marius.
You're showing off now. Well done.
I am, yeah. And Loggia at the moment is 0.2 of a second down with 10 minutes to go. So he's not in it for that first place position yet. So Bellingham safely chilling in the pits at the moment, waiting to see who's going to be knocking him off that top spot.
Well, look, I mean, that's and Lodge's just got it sideways. That's again, you come on the power a little bit too early with these fast-flowing corners and you get yourself crossed up. So that'll be a bit of a throwaway lap for him. We go on board now with Jason Isherwood. I mean, he actually won our competition that we ran with Sparko 2 weeks ago. Got himself a nice set of racing gloves. And I actually said during our chat, well, hopefully those gloves are going to come in handy. We'll back at the top of the pile, because he's one of the guys that really started so well, and we just haven't seen him, in my opinion, where he needs to be, which is definitely running towards the top of Pro-Am, sitting down in 14th now, 2 seconds off the pace. But great to have Aldo Bellingham sitting fast at the moment in that Lambo. We saw a lot of him racing in pros, but I think the last 2 rounds he's been down in Pro-Ams, and I think that's crucial. If you are unlucky enough not to see pros, you need to flip and nail it. If you know that you've been running pro pace, you need to come to Pro-Ams and you need to win. And he hasn't done that yet, so maybe this weekend will be different. But it's not a case of him just sitting in the pits with just under 10 minutes to go and chilling, because just under 0.2 of a second is nothing. So this is still going to be action filled with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, exactly. Just under 10 minutes of racing to go, and Isherwood runs a little bit wide there. We now go to Albertine, who is in 4th position, also 0.2 of a second down, or just under 0.3 of a second down in 4th position. Looking good there. This sweep over here, and then through the left hand, a very tricky section. A lot of drivers run wide there, and there we see Albertine do exactly that. And this course is so easy to run wide. I think we're going to see a lot of penalties here because drivers are going to be running wide and they're going to be breaking track limit rules. I think that's definitely something we're going to be seeing a lot of today.
Well, that's. I mean, I haven't got to drive this track at all in a set of courses, so I don't know what the limits. Maybe you can help us out. I know, like at some of the rounds we went to Paul Ricard, you can see they put those little the little beacons out that says you need to be back on racing line. You can exceed here, but you can't there. And I think like that chicane in particular, you know, that overhead shot we saw now, you can see a lot of guys kind of try and straight line that as much as possible, even though those sausage curbs are there. But I'm sure the game is going to be implementing penalties in there. And that's what makes it so trickier because it's a fine line. You want to use every single bit of the track, but a little bit too hot going in and you're off the track and you're off the limits. And you're either going to get punished by the game or you're going to be running on the fake grass stuff, which doesn't help from a traction perspective anyway. So you're right. It's like that's where we see the pros. They're able to put that car on the knife's edge. They're able to get it right onto that maximum bit of tar that they're allowed to use. They use it. So it's going to be interesting to see how the guys go here. Love seeing Leon Leroux. He's been super consistent in his results in the ProAM category in that Aston Martin. Great looking car. And I think he'll want to back it up. I think that he finished, was he second last in 2 weeks ago in Barcelona? So I think he's looking for another back-to-back good result here.
Yeah, so far nothing much from him. He's probably just getting his rhythm going. A 145.7 from Leon Leroux. He's got to get into the 44s if he's going to want to go up the order. We've got Albertine at the moment, half a second up on his lap, so he might be vying for that top spot in first place. That's if he keeps it clean. But you're so right about that, Marius. This circuit doesn't have clear markings on the track edge and where the track width is. So drivers really have to practice where the edge is. I mean, we went so far as to, myself and Jason, to use the camera on the game and then literally go inspect surfaces of the track. Like you always talk about track walks and things like that. We did a track walk to try and understand why the car was getting thrown wide by those sausage curbs. And once you see the shape of it, then you know exactly why the car is doing what it's doing. And this game really allows, or the simulator really allows for you to go into that kind of detail. So, you know, it's incredible that you can do that, but it's still going to be tricky because there aren't any markings. I'm on board with Albertine now. Albertine's still 0.3 of a second up as he goes into the final corner now. We're on board with Leon Leroux, but I hope we can go have a look at Albertine. There we go. That's Albertine now. 0.3 of a second up. He's going towards the finish line. This could put him near the front of the grid. We're going to wait and see. Across the line, Albertine gets first. Albertine gets first by 0.009 seconds, Marius.
I mean, listen, that is, I don't want to use the term that we're all thinking about. We'll just go, that's a hair. There's nothing in there. So, I mean, this for me makes it super exciting. And you have a look, Lodger in third is also like just under 0.2 behind. So we've got 6 minutes to go. I still predict there are going to be some changes. Expect to see Aldo in the Lamborghini rolling out now to try and get his pole position back. But it's tricky. I mean, I love that you mentioned that the guys can go into that type of detail in terms of having a look. But like there, I mean, Cornet's gone way over the track limit. So what will the game allow? Because Oaks are going to get a warning and it's going to say, hey, you can't do that. Do it 2 more times and you're going to get a penalty. So that puts you under pressure too. If you start picking up those early on in the race, you know you've got a 50-minute race to go, and you've got to try and push to the edge, but keep within those limits. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I think you're 100% right, Ernest. I think we're going to see a couple of penalties added by the game in this race format today.
Yeah, well spotted there. Strauss did in fact invalidate his lap on that last one. It's effectively there's certain sections of the circuit where if you look at the circuit, you'll see a track edge and maybe a little line after that. That is usually where the game would maybe refer to itself as the widest part where the car's allowed to go. And if you go over that part by a millimeter, your lap is invalidated. If you manage to gain any time, you then get a warning. If you get 4 of those warnings, you then get a drive-through. So it's in a 50-minute simulated race that I was watching yesterday. 2 of the guys, I think, got drive-through penalties. So it's very easy to do that. And then how does that mess with your mental state if halfway through you've got 2 penalties already?
Big time, because I mean that's the thing. You're going to be very anxious about pushing because it's like it's natural in race. You don't want to be thinking about other stuff, only about nailing the corner and going as quick as you can. Now suddenly this is going to play in the back of your mind. We're on board now with Aldo, who was obviously leading early on in terms of pole setting time, but he just recently got pipped there by Franco Albertine. So I'm expecting to see a good lap coming from him. But that is what my attitude always is. Like, don't put extra surface there. If you don't want the guys to go there, put a cliff edge, put a brick wall, or put grass. And that's what irritates me, because like there, I wouldn't go and put that fake grass on the edge there. So the guys can't go there. If they go there, they're super punished. And that's what happens with the old circuits. You know, you go to the East London racetrack, or you go to Spa, you know, any of those old circuits, the runoff, there is no concrete, there is no Astra, there's nothing but grass. So if you make a mistake, Kyalami, your home circuit, same thing. If you're off time, you are on grass and you are immediately punished.
And so you've got a problem, a big problem.
You don't need a clerk of the course to adjudicate any issues, because you've already been compromised. I love that. I wish we don't have to have those situations. The new tracks are obviously a nightmare. This one's not so bad, but the new ones are dreadful in terms of that, where it's, you know, it's shopping parking areas. You can go and drive anywhere you want to, you know, and then you've got to put these silly little things in. But yeah, anyway, that's me. My venting's done for the day.
As we watch Jason van der Rooyen in 5th position, that's in the milk car. He's in 5th place now, in a solid 5th position. He's going to be happy with that one. As we look at corners,
I'm jumping in. Check Aldo. So he's gone and done it.
Yeah.
Gone and taken back that pole position. We predicted that he was sitting and waiting to see what was going to happen. And that 0.2 is an impressive time now. They're running quicker. I think they were doing like mid 44s. This is kind of the top seeding times they were running yesterday. So you'll see the guys ejecting now. They realize they make one mistake. They're not on a hot lap time for qualifying for pole. So they into the pits they go. So that's why you'll see a lot of guys hitting the ejector button now.
Yeah, indeed. Bellingham now leaving the pit lane once again, sideways out the pit lane on my monitor. He's looking to go faster. Loggia was someone that I definitely tipped. His one lap pace is usually quite shattering, but he's struggling to string one together here, because I think it's just the circuit. One mistake here and you're getting the warning. And I think in a hot lap mode, these guys are pushing the absolute limits of the circuit, and this is exactly what's happened. It's actually quite difficult to string together even just 1 or 2 laps sometimes.
Look, what you're not going to find in the simulation is like in a real racing scenario here, because like I mentioned right in the beginning, the track isn't used that often and it gets very, very dusty. It's like us when we go to Pakisa, you know, and suddenly over a race weekend, as more cars are going, the dust gets cleared off and you start getting some rubber down. So in qualifying, often that's what happens. The guys want to set their time as late as possible, because that is going to be the fastest moment on the track. A lot of guys won't be setting a qualifying time early in the session. It's right now that the track's going to be at its optimum, but I doubt that's going to be the case in a simulated game like this with a Assetto Corsa, you know, but the real world conditions, the guys will be struggling. I love that onboard. You see how deep he went into that corner, because the apex is so flippin' late. So you literally have to hang on to it, and this for me I love. And here as well, so easy to come on the power a little bit too early, push the nose, and you compromise your drive onto the start finish. So
Time's looking good. He's gone up to 3rd place.
Great.
3rd place. Well done.
Yeah, that was actually really cool to see. And we're down a minute to go. So this is where stuff starts getting super real. If you're not on a lap now, then I mean that's pretty much your position for the start.
Nude Hendricks also looking good now. He's off 3/10 of a second up. He's going to move up in the standings up to 6th place. Not bad. We've seen Nude starting to make some moves lately. No other. What was that?
He was good 2 weeks ago. He actually had a very solid, consistent race under a lot of pressure as well. If I remember, there was a Duggan. I mean, they were overtaking. There were like 3 or 4 of them that were just having an absolute epic battle in ProAM. So it was really good to see. But yeah, looks like good qualifying for him. He'll be happy with 6, I'm sure, with a 50-minute race up ahead.
Well, one person that can upset the apple cart still is Albertine, going through now the last couple of corners, the final corner. Now he loses a bit of momentum out the exit there, gets it a bit sideways. And he's lost any chance of taking 1st place. As we finish up qualifying now, the order seems to be very much to stay the same, pretty much.
See how tricky that is, Ernest. You obviously know you're pushing a lap time, so you try and come on the power just a little bit too early, and you saw that. It ends up having the back stepping on his Porsche. So easy to get that wrong there, because those are the 2 corners for me that are fully about patience, you know, and so crucial.
Well, Strauss is a little bit up, but I don't think it's going to be enough, though. Look, so far, we've got Bellingham in 1st place, 2/10 of a second behind that. Albertine, Werner Joubert in 4th. Loggia all the way down in 4th position. Both of them 4/10 of a second down. So the first 6 drivers separated by just about half a second, and 1 second separating the top 10, as Ian McKenzie makes the top 10 in the Milk Porsche. And well done for him for making the top 10. Ian McKenzie looking good there in the Milk Porsche. And that's it from us for now in qualifying. Qualifying is pretty much going to stay the same. We'll be back in the next couple of minutes for the Pro-Am race. Stay tuned, folks. The action is about to heat up. Oh, and that's what it looks like when cars are ready for action. And it's nice to see a fighting bull on the front row of the grid for a change. I mean, these cars do so well in the real world, and we've seldom seen them parked on the first row of the grid here. And it's nice to see Bellingen lining the Raging Bull on first place.
Yeah, I'm just loving 3 different manufacturers in the top 3. We love seeing that. And a nice lineup. I mean, we have 2 Ferrari, 6th and 7th. So this we spoke about so many times about ProAMs. It really is a nice mixed bag of manufacturers. And again, yeah, we've got another new driver sitting on pole. It's super awesome.
Super awesome indeed. Bellingen in first place. Behind him, Albertijn. Frans Albertijn there in the, or Franco Albertijn in the Porsche over there in second place. Werner Joubert in third in the Mercedes-Benz, and Loggia bringing up fourth position there. We said earlier on, half a second separates the top 5. Corne Strauss there in fifth place in the McLaren, and the first of the McLaren, the first and only McLaren on the grid today. Now, he is someone to watch out for. We saw him do exceptionally well at the last race, bar a couple of silly mistakes. So we'll be interesting to see what he does as we hop on board with Bellingen, and that's what it looks like from inside the car. A lot of buttons, but also a giant rear view mirror plastered on the center of his roll bar over there, with a Mercedes-Benz the size of the entire screen looking on.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I know you said you're a little bit worried about what's going to happen in turn 1. Yeah, these guys now, 8 rounds in, need to realize a 50-minute race isn't won in the first corner, but as racing drivers, like, come on, we also all know that, like, you want to have a good start. It's the best opportunity to make up places, and it's also the biggest overtaking opportunity at the Hungaroring. So there's going to be a lot of action, but I think the only thing for me that I like here is that you can run deep. There are different lines through. If you outbrake yourself, it's not chaos. So I'm just hoping the guys kind of get through this first little bit all clean, and we have a nice race with all of the cars making it through turn 1 safely.
Tell you what, that's exactly the thing. I mean, as a today an assigned drivers briefing adjudicator, I told the guys that they should take it easy into the first corner, but the racer in me knows. I've been in the situation where I go into the first corner and the opportunity's there and you want to take it.
Yeah.
So do they have the skills to be able to balance that opportunity and capitalize on the opportunity? That's another story. But, when the opportunities are there, if you're a race car driver, you're going to take it.
You have to, otherwise why are you racing? I mean, that's the minute you doubting your ability to see a gap and to take an opportunity, you need to stop racing. But I mean, what we're looking for is guys not doing stupid things, places where you're not meant to be overtaking, getting your nose into the wrong place. And that is what happens very often in the first lap. Is guys kind of think there's an opportunity there. There's a lot to watch. There's a lot of going on. I know obviously in the simulation, it's giving you proximity meters so you know where the other cars are, but that is the challenge in the beginning of a race. There's a lot of activity. Guys are weaving and diving and moving, and you've got a perfect racing line, but on the first corner and the start of a race, you've got 5 guys all wanting to go for that perfect racing line. So that's where things always get a little bit interesting. But obviously gearing up now, getting brake temperature in, making sure the tires are well warmed up, because you're going to come onto a rolling start scenario and into a very, very heavy braking position for turn 1. So getting that car optimized, getting your head in the right space is what the guys are busy doing now.
Well, they are also busy making their way through the sweeping S's. Some have said that this is similar to what can be seen in Japan at Suzuka Circuit, the fast sweeping corners that link up one into the next. But one car that has proven to be the fastest here is Bellingham in the Lamborghini up front there. Just a spectacularly good-looking car.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh, wow.
You know what I love? I know we've seen, ATK have allowed the guys to start sending in their personalized liveries, and I love the way he's gone. This is so understated, like less certainly is more. It just looks ferocious. And a great car. I mean, we've got to spend plenty of time in the road-going versions. Actually drove one of the race cars as well in the previous generation Gallardos, but the Huracan Evo is just such a beautiful looking car. Great performer, and it's obviously its sister car is sitting a little bit further down the grid, Adrianse in the Audi. I mean, literally same platform.
Yeah, but the Lamborghini is a much better take on the job, though, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, just look at the success that Audi has with the GP program.
We're talking just looks here. We're talking.
I'm going to let you talk us through the line because this is really
If it was a beauty contest, for sure the Lamborghini would win, but this is not. This is racing, folks, and we are about to go green flag racing for the ATK Pro Series 2020. Off we go. Oh no, Bellingham has a terrible start. Albertine in the lead by a large gap. Joubert down the middle, trying to have a look there. We've got Lodge on the outside, trying to see if he can do something. Lodge and Joubert get close up to each other. Albertine down the inside. Oh, Bellingham gets close. Joubert gets very close as well, but no touching yet. There's some action at the back. Lodge runs all the way wide. We've got the McLaren spinning out on the grass. Action all the way through so far, and that looks like Strauss falling all the way back there, but so far Bellingham leads us off. No, he doesn't. Bellingham in second position, almost losing second as well to Joubert. Joubert now challenging Bellingham for second place, gives him a nudge. Oh no, Joubert pushes him aside. Larger in the wall, Bellingham in the wall. Joubert takes out. Oh, McKenzie gets taken out as well. Duggan too. Oh my goodness me, this is one of the worst incidents we've seen so far. Van Rooyen, they touch again. Strauss and Bellingham, Strauss and Duggan too. And what a catastrophic start to the race there. Oh my goodness me.
If we just logged into amateur hour motor racing, because that for me was just horrible to watch. We were saying the guys are 8 rounds in. They kind of should know what they're doing right now. We're running with a slightly smaller field as well. What we don't need is to go and lose a whole bunch of cars. And I mean, there's massive carnage and damage done there. So I think we're going to see a few guys in the pits getting repair works done. But what it does, it opens up opportunities. There you spoke about McKenzie. You see him dropping all the way down. There were guys that were qualifying right up at the top that are now going to find themselves way down the bottom. Guys that were starting in 15 up in the top. But look, I mean, we'll see replays of that incident. I don't know who's to blame there, but I like the fact that a lot of guys took avoiding action in the beginning coming out of turn 1, because we spoke about that. There's runoff, there's opportunities. I know Cornet got himself into a bit of a spin, but he was fine. It's when we got into turn 2 and 3 and down the downhill section that, well, anyway, things just got really, really messy. But a guy we haven't seen up at the front for a long time, Jason Isherwood, has kind of navigated his way through the carnage, and here he's sitting in third place. So well done to him. but disappointed to see what happened there, because it just seemed like the guys just didn't care.
Unbelievable stuff, and just a catastrophic way to start lap one. But someone that isn't complaining is Jason Isherwood, all the way now in third position. And we were talking about him earlier on. How is he not further up the grid? But this is one of those situations. I've done a bunch of these online races, and you know, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. And when you get to do the hammering, you better make sure you hammer as hard as possible.
But yeah, I hear you, but I mean, that's also flipping nonsense, because that was, I mean, it was Elder Bellingham involved in something, tapping someone through that right-hander, and that's what creates all the carnage behind, because the guys just started smashing into each other with nowhere to go. But he was also, we'll see it in the replay, was relentless, never actually came off. Once the tap was done, never backed out of it, just kept the foot down and made sure that car spun all the way around. So that wasn't good to see. But Adrianza as well, I think he was down in 10th. When we were doing the build-up in the Audi, and now he's finding himself in second position. So, yeah, a lot of new guys are going to find themselves with a great opportunity to score maximum points here. Now it's about settling down into that rhythm. We said 50-minute race, 4 minutes are done. 4 action-packed bump and car minutes, which I don't like to see. But now get into a rhythm, get yourself settled in, and start trying to consolidate what has been a gifted opportunity with everyone falling over each other in the first few corners.
Well, it looks to me like Bellingham hit the brakes into the fast sweeping right-hander, which is not really a braking zone, and got knocked out by Joubert over there. And after that, it was just absolute carnage as everybody sort of catapulted into each other. So, I'm no steward. I'm looking forward to seeing what our MSA steward has to say about that. We've got an official MSA steward at the races today, and he's going to be letting us know exactly what is going on here and hopefully getting some clarity on this. But the racing continues as we join Isherwood now in the Bentley in third position, chasing down Adrianza. Behind him, we got Noor Hendricks in the Ferrari in fourth place. Riddell in fifth position. Well done to him there. In the Porsche, sneaking all the way up to fifth position. Leon Leroux now in striking distance of the top 5 in sixth, and Jason Murphy in the Audi in seventh position. And lots of drivers now in the pits. A couple of drivers parking it in the pits and getting those necessary repairs done. But what a shame. What a shame that that's how it had to start. But that certainly is a lot of action. I'd love to see a replay about what happened there.
I'm sure we're going to. I mean, something I'd like to comment on, which we haven't seen in a long time here, is in a real racing situation, you're never going to get the guy in second place ahead of the guy in first place in the roll-up to the lights. So that's where Aldo made his first mistake. In a set of course, as you notice, you get given that little box, and you need to be as far forward in your box as possible. So for people that are watching this for the first time, that are used to the real racing versus the simulator racing, those are a couple of the little nuances of the game that people might not always understand. So Aldo was already on the back foot because he put himself in the wrong position in his box, and that's why Albertine was able to get the jump. I mean, actually led across the line from second place. He was in front already. But well done to him for understanding where he needs to put his car, but it ensured that he was out of the way. He was out of all the mess and chaos happening behind him with that good clean start. But under massive pressure is Jason Isherwood at the moment. Noah Hendricks, we saw, was very, very racy 2 weeks ago in Barcelona. He looks like he's got the pace. We know he had the pace because he qualified a lot better than Jason did, but Jason obviously carved his way through the carnage early. That's what I mean about being able to run really wide here, so you can leave yourself some space. But well done, Noah Hendricks in that Ferrari. He's now up into third position onto the podium. That's going to flip and fire him up, so that's good going. Up ahead is Adrianza in the Audi. That'll be his next target. But Albertine has basically checked out. I mean, he's got like nearly a 5-second lead after just 3.5 laps. It's mad.
Well done to Albertine for capitalizing on that. Unfortunately, Isherwood there getting taken, the position getting taken by Hendricks. Hendricks runs wide now as they go into the right-hander over here. Isherwood now back on the back bumper of Hendricks. Hendricks does have the pace, but sometimes it's easier to be fast when you're chasing, and it seems Hendricks making a couple of mistakes, 2 mistakes that I've seen since he managed to get that overtake and make that 3. Runs a little bit wide there, the Bentley chasing him down. The Bentley is a big car, but it certainly is light on its feet though, as he chases down Noor Hendricks now with the Adrianza also trying to make a quick getaway in the Audi a little bit further up the road.
Ernest, it's a very good point you've made, because we actually commented 2 weeks ago in there as well. When the guys get caught up in that battle, they've got the pace, but they end up making mistakes once they get past that guy, because now they're no longer having him as their brake marker. You know, it's very easy to follow the guy, follow his line, brake, and obviously you're getting that little rush of adrenaline. You've got a target. That's who I'm chasing. Suddenly you've got it done, and now you feeling I must watch mirrors because now I'm being chased. So that is the mentality that goes with racing, is being able to just, I don't know, imagine the mirrors don't exist and switch off and obviously focus on getting back to the racing side of things. So, yeah.
We've just got some news in, Marius, from Race Control, and we've got a restart pending. Because of that massive incident on the first lap earlier on. The race has been restarted, so the clock of the course has officially ruled a red flag, and that is well within the rules of most motorsports, where if something does go catastrophically wrong on the first lap, a red flag opportunity can present itself, and that's exactly what we have here. We have red flag racing, and that means we have a restart pending in the next couple of minutes. So about 3 minutes or so we've got to go until we have our official restart. First one of the season.
I'd love to find out why, because for me, I wouldn't bother restarting a race unless, it normally gets red flagged with an incident where there's damage, there's carnage, it's not safe. But obviously, all the guys can reboot and go back to the pits. So you don't really have those scenarios. So for me, it's quite unusual to see that happen, unless the decision's being made to say, listen, so many guys were involved in this, we've lost so many guys to the race. But I'm interested to see what they're going to do, because if it's a red flag and a restart, then does it mean they're restarting to what, has he decided to go back to what the original grid positions were from qualifying? Or is it a restart in the position where we were 4 laps into the race, and the guys that were involved are going to slot? I don't know. I'd like info on that.
It looks like they're going to be starting exactly the same way. It does look like we're starting exactly the same way. We're waiting for more info to come through as we speak.
You see, that for me, I'd love. It's a pity we don't have Jonathan here to have that discussion and find out what the reason was. But like you said, we've got an official MSA clerk of the course looking after. But I'd love to know why, because we've done 4 laps of the race. If the guys go and take each other and fall over each other, no, the guys are all going to be complaining about, I got taken out, this, that. That happens. Then it's about issuing penalties. But I don't understand why we need to restart a race when in simulator racing you don't ever have any high risk incident. There aren't body parts scattered all over the track and Armco barriers that need to be repaired. So yeah, I find that quite bizarre, because the guys that gone and benefited from the start and made up all the opportunities now get dropped back to where they qualified. I don't know. I don't like this at all, to be honest.
There are going to be winners and losers from this affair, that's for sure. The biggest loser at the moment, unfortunately, is Ian McKenzie. He's trying to rejoin the server. I know he's having some server issues, and he's trying to rejoin the server. I'm not sure what the stewards can do about that, because he's not, unfortunately, in the server at the moment. And I was looking forward to seeing what his pace would look like in this race. We've got 1 minute to go before the race restarts. All the cars have been repaired miraculously. That is one of the major benefits. But Marius, you make a very good point there. I love the fact that you play devil's advocate. I think if the drivers were to comment on this, I think some of them would say that because the risk factor isn't there. I got pit maneuvered twice this week. And I know when I'm racing against somebody else, I use that as an intimidation tactic, because I know that you can't pit maneuver me, because you're going to get into massive trouble, because it's one of the most dangerous things that you could do on the track. So I would intentionally get the back of my car close to the front of other guys' cars to intimidate them a little bit. Especially the front wheel drives, you can get away with it. On sim racing, I get pit maneuvered all the time because the guys aren't intimidated, because they know you're going to be the one that's going to get taken out, and there's not going to be much repercussion for them other than maybe a wag of the finger. So I think for this year, the guys do things because there aren't consequences where you lose sponsors, etc., etc. So I just think there are other factors. I personally am still trying to understand those factors, but I do like the fact that we have opposite views on this so that we can discuss these things.
Yeah, but you know what, Ernest, for me, there are consequences. We're trying to run the ATK Pro Series like a proper legitimate. This is how it happens in the real world. So in the real world, the consequence would be you created a multiple car pileup. It's either you're going to get points docked, or like we've got those procedures in place. So guys would like in Formula One, in any their championship points that get lost. You get so many points you're allowed to allocate for incidents. You know, you've got to rely on the clerk of the course to make those decisions and punish the people that are responsible. But the racing has to carry on. You can't go and say, well, oh, flip, there was carnage. Okay, let's have another go at it. Because all that's going to happen now is, well, they're going to have another go at it. Whereas at the end of the day, that was, I know they're innocent people in that incident that weren't involved, that were taken out. But in the race, they're not going to go, oh, like at Spa, turn 1, oh, flip, I was taken out. Oh, well, let's just restart the race. I mean, that only ever happens when there's a safety concern. So I'm baffled by why this was done. And for me, it creates exactly that mentality of it's a game. We can just hard reboot and we can race again. I can crash into the wall. I can have a bad qualifying lap and I can just reboot and go back. That doesn't happen in the real world. So that I just find a bit bizarre.
Well, a very, very good observation there. And I mean, again, a complex argument, this one, a complex discussion, and something I'd love to get feedback after the fact. I'm sure you're going to love doing the the report on this one later on in the week, as we now look at Werner Joubert, the man in the Mercedes-Benz who was involved in that first lap incident. Whew, what a first lap incident. I mean, there was absolute chaos going into that first section there. I did manage to have a look at the replay offline, and it looks like Bellingham hit the brakes. Werner Joubert touched him from behind, and the other drivers behind got all entangled in that. Lodger also, number 4. So positions 1, 2, 1, 3, 4, and 5 got taken out there, and only Bellingham and Noor Hendricks managed to get away. At least Albertine and Noor Hendricks managed to get away. So, yeah, there were lots of losers on that one, a couple of winners, but now the playing fields have been evened again as we go back to the
but I mean, we're also going back to a 50-minute race. I mean, we've already raced 10 minutes of the race. So for me, then restart with a shortened race. That's my attitude. And I'd like to know what's going to happen now, because have they said, okay, listen, there was a big mistake, oopsie, restart, and then there's no penalties, there's no consequence? Because according to me now, there's no consequence. Yeah, because they've restarted the race. So they've decided, let's go again. I don't know this. Yeah, I find this very bizarre and baffling. I'm not happy, to be honest.
And again, I appreciate your feedback and I appreciate your candor as we now make our way into the final corner here before the start-finish straight. Let's try this again, folks. This is the Pro-Am race. We promised you action. We didn't quite know that there would be this much of it. But certainly action is what the Pro Series is all about. Bellingham in the right-hand lane there. Albertine next to him in the left. Albertine in second position. Behind that, we've got Lodgia and Joubert making up the second row of the grid. The third row of the grid, we've got Strauss and Noor Hendricks. They're going to try again. We're going to go one more time, and it is green flag racing. Here we go. Lamborghini gets a much better start this time. This time, the guys are a little bit better behaved, a bit further spread apart. Lodgia once again going to the outside. Albertine in the middle there, and the similar situation here as Noor Hendricks comes from all the way back, tucks his way in. Oh, they touch. Albertine gets a bit of a nudge there. Lodgia runs all the way wide. Again, the similar situation we saw earlier on, but this time, no carnage as yet.
Yeah, listen, well, I mean, obviously, Aldo learned his mistake from getting himself too far back in his little green box for the start. Way better start this time, and obviously being able to lead out the race. And yeah, it looks like everyone's got through safely. Like we said, lots of runoff areas. The guys just need to be a little bit patient and not be that aggressive in terms of where they place their cars. There's contact. Corne Strauss has been tapped by Jason Isherwood from what I could see, and that's put him into the wall. So there's a drive-through, and that's obviously Werner getting something wrong there. That would have been on the restart. So Werner's obviously put himself out of position with that box. I think that's the only reason that game would have issued a drive-through penalty there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a drive-through penalty or if he got punished for the previous incident. We'll have to check with our stewards about that one. Maybe he got punished for the incident in the start of the first heat. He was involved with the initial contact there, although he did go into the back of a braking Bellingham, who now is half a second up front, getting chased by Albertine in second position. Albertine having caught up there now to 0.3 of a second as they make their way through the chicane now. Bellingham still in the lead. Albertine lights ablaze, trying to make sure that he is spotted and known in the rearview mirror of that absolutely, quite frankly, the best looking car, I think, on the grid today.
Yeah, listen, I hear what you're saying in terms of the drive-through. I'm frantically trying to get some information here because at the moment it's also hard for us commentating blind because we're guessing at what's going on. Normally we'll have Jonathan who can obviously update us, but he's not here, he's not making the calls. So I'd like to know what's going on because that also for me seems fun, seems bizarre. Okay, listen, you were responsible. Let's restart the race, but you're getting a drive-through penalty. Anyway, we'll get to the bottom of it. We'll figure it all out. But I remember, my first initial impression when I saw that, whether he braked early or not, Bellingham, it did feel for me like whoever it was that was tapping him, which we thought was Hubert in the Merc, you correctly pointed out, didn't back out of it either. You know what I mean? Once he was put into it, and he kept his foot flat and made sure that he did a good job spinning Aldo around. But again, I'm making these calls and I've been wrong before. I'd obviously need to see that again in a replay. But yeah, we are. We're racing. And Aldo's got a second chance at getting it right.
Jubair's out. Jubair spins out there. Jubair loses it through the S's over there. Parked in the middle of the road now. Van Jubair hits the wall and goes all the way back now, getting overtaken there by, looks like Van Rooyen there in the Milk. Ferrari gets through. And unfortunately, the Mercedes-Benz, the first of the Mercedes-Benz, Van Jubair, with a drive-through penalty, makes a mistake. Maybe that drive-through penalty played with his head a little bit there, made a mistake in a spot where the Mercedes-Benz normally has the advantage, loses it there into the wall, and now more than likely has damage to boot.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually awesome because we were on board and you could just see the rear end of that car going into that slow, I'm losing the back end, no way that we could pull it back. And we've said that in this format with a simulation, it's so much easier in the real world environment. I can feel it through the seat of my pants. I can feel what the car's doing in my butt. Yeah, you're relying on what your eyes are seeing and what the wheel is giving you that information. So it's quite tricky. That's what I found trying to play a set course and getting an understanding of what's going on. That's what we struggle with because it's very hard to pull the car back once it starts getting into that slide. And again, apparently it comes down to how you set the car up as well in terms of being able to recover it. But yeah, up front, Franco Albertine, obviously he loved the way things played out at the first start of round 8 at Hungaroring. Less happy about the restart, but he's got the pace and he's putting Aldo Bellingham under massive pressure. This for me is a great part of the circuit as you sweep down through the downhill sections here. Very, very fast, very committed, no place for mistakes. And you head up here, it's actually a little up, you'll hit the little brake points, turn to the left, very technical. I love it.
Beautiful stuff there. That's exactly what we saw the Mercedes-Benz spin out earlier on. This time, no issues for both Albertine and Bellingham. Nose to tail as they make their way through the long sweeping right-hander now into the chicane section of here. Over the bumps they're going to go. I'm not sure how the Lamborghini handles those bumps. The Porsches we know, as you can see there, gets a bit closer, but the Porsches we know need to tiptoe over those bumps and nose to tail battle for first and second. It's nice to see as third and fourth also within striking range. Further back, we've got a couple more battles taking place. The field really stacked up close together here in ProAM. At least this time, most of the field is here. We saw what happened in the first start before the red flag. Lots and lots of incidents, but not many incidents as yet. Werner Joubert, the one man, though, who did come off second best on the restart, gets a drive-through penalty and spins out for his trouble as well. So the man that came off worst out of all of this is Werner Joubert, down now in 12th position.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be the one that says, well deserved, have a nightmare day, because we don't know. we don't know what the drive-through was for. We haven't seen the incident again in proper replay to understand what Clark, of course, has done. But you're right. I mean, our Monday race incident report is going to certainly have a lot of things to discuss. We'll have a better look at that then.
This is a nice race happening here between Riddell and Murphy.
Yeah. I mean, I was just saying, it's nice to see. We know Clinton's close. Based, ran right up the back of him. And someone we haven't spoken about, Leon LaRue, it just seems like the Aston hasn't been that fast around the circuit. But what Leon has been really good at is just being safe, staying out of trouble, and letting everyone else around him make the mistakes. And he always ends up picking up podium position. So at the moment, he'll be eagerly watching what's happening up ahead of him because he knows Clinton's got some pace and Murphy just up ahead in the Audi. So this could end up playing in Leon LaRue's favor as well. Noah Hendricks, still in that podium position. He's now getting drawn into this little battle for the lead, and he's bringing Lodger with him. So we could be having a four-way battle very soon for the front of this race. It seems like Aldo is a bit of a cork in the champagne bottle here. He doesn't seem to have the pace of the guys behind him, but we know that Hungaroring is such a difficult track for overtaking. So I hope the guys don't get impatient. This is a case about lining up that overtake move. We know the best place to probably do it is the start finish. For me, what's critical here again is how the different cars are set up. Because if you set up to ensure that you have straight line speed for that straight, it makes it very difficult for the guys to stick on the back of you and get that move done into turn one.
Oh, Murphy and Leon Leroux having a good go at it. Leon Leroux must have gotten past Murphy earlier on. Murphy now trying to have another look. We got the live cam at the bottom there, getting some of the action further back in the grid there. That is Leon Leroux carving his way up now to sixth position or seventh position, with Riddell trying to get away further up. Murphy still challenging there. Murphy's still challenging hard. He's not happy dropping down at all. Just behind Leon Leroux, there is Murphy in the Audi.
There must have been some little incident, because we know that Clinton Riddell was putting James Murphy under pressure. So it looks like he went and made a mistake somewhere and probably ran off the track, which gave that opportunity to Leon Leroux. And like we said, but have a look, Murphy having a proper dive up the inside. It looks like Leon's is very, very cautious on the brakes, because Murphy absolutely nailed the brake. It looks like he just drove up the door that Leon left open for him. So who knows, maybe Leon's giving back a position because maybe he felt that he did something wrong. Maybe he tapped James again. We haven't seen this, but we have seen it happen in the racing before, where guys make a mistake, they give the position back. But it just seems an odd place to give it back through turn one. We just seem to brake far too early, and Murphy's like, thanks, I'll take that back. But this is a great battle up front. Noah Hendricks all over the back of Albertine, who earlier was putting massive pressure on Elder. Now this is where it gets interesting, because now you're kind of looking at the guy ahead of you, but you're also now watching your mirrors, because you know you're under pressure. So
exactly,
it's that little cat and mouse game now.
Well, this is, as you said earlier on, there's not much place to overtake you, so it's really a case of getting into rhythm behind other cars and waiting for a mistake, and then calculating when do you think is the move to be made? When should the move be made, and what's the optimum time to make that move? If the move is supposed to be made in the last 20 minutes of the race, then you've got 20 minutes of sitting down and just holding tight for the next couple of laps. And maybe that's what Noor Hendricks is going to do, because it doesn't seem to me like these guys are... it looks to me like they could stay like this formation for quite a few laps.
Well, look, that is what the circuit has often done. When you watch the motor racing, it can become quite follow my leader pedestrian, because it is so difficult for overtaking. And then that's when, like Formula One, the tyre strategy becomes crucial. And there is a bit of tyre, I don't want to say strategy, but the tyres play a big game in the simulation. We know that the Porsches, the guys are always complaining that with 10 laps to go or 10 minutes, and Aldo's made a mistake, came on the power far too early on the exit and has lost that position. Now he's going to have to defend against Noor. So he's actually dropped 2 positions there by making that one sitting
Oh, they touch. Noor Hendricks touches Aldo there. I'm not sure who did what. Tries to spin the car around. They got the track all covered up. The rest of the pack is now coming through. Thankfully, no incidents there.
No, that's Aldo. I mean, turning, the pass is done. He's made a mistake. Noah's gone up the inside of him, and he turns into Noah Hendricks when, I mean, come on, that's that. I don't even have to see that again. I'm not even going to admit that I could be wrong on something like that. But that's just irritating, And now Isherwood's gone and run wide as well. Oh man, there's just a lot of chaos going on here. But yeah, we'll get a replay of that for sure. But it's actually spoiled the battle up front, because Lodger was lying in 4th. He's now up to 2nd, and Albertine's got an inherited 1st place. We're looking forward to a good 4-way battle for the lead. And what we were talking about just before that incident is that tyres are going to become very crucial with 10 minutes left in this race. As we've seen on every one of these rounds, it gets very, very technical at the end. The guys are struggling to hold on to cars. They don't want to stop and turn, and that's when the action always happens for us with 10 minutes to go. But this round at Hungaroring has been action from the very beginning, and unfortunately not good racing action, but silly racing action.
Yeah, silly racing action indeed. I'm having a look at that replay now, and it does seem to me that Hendricks' car moved over to the right suddenly, but again, that's something the stewards are going to have to decide and figure out if that was the issue over there. Such a strange incident. We're looking to have some good racing. Someone that's benefited from this, and someone that I tipped to be one of the quickest guys here, is Benjamin Lodger in 2nd position from Ramzak Racing. He is an exceptionally talented sim racer and took part in Formula One races for quite some time, making it into the top 3 sometimes in the country, if not the fastest in Formula One. I think it was 2019, if I'm not mistaken. So he's got an exceptionally smooth driving style from the Formula One side of things. Has just been struggling to get his race pace going, and makes mistakes like that from time to time by running wide. So hopefully he can string together the next 38 minutes or so and at least get that 2nd place or podium as he chases down Albertine, who now is finding himself under quite a bit of pressure.
Yeah, so I'm just getting I was getting a little update there, and it's just apparently FIA Stewart said if 3 laps have not been made yet, the restart could happen with the amount of accidents. But I question that again because we were commentating, it was 3.5 laps in. If you remember, we're actually talking about the 4-second lead, that 5-second lead that Albertine had already made. Anyway, apparently a lot of the races were having in-game issues resulting from that crash. Yeah, sorry. This for me just doesn't feel like what would happen in the real racing world, and that's what we're trying to create here. But anyway, hopefully we get a replay of the restart incident that we just saw now, that saw our 4-way battle turn into a 2-way Porsche affair, because I'd like to see what happened there with Franco Albertine. With Aldo Bellingham, sorry, I just felt like he really did turn into Noah Hendricks when the move had already been done. But anyway, it looks like what we've been updated here is that there was in-game stuff that was resulted not by the crash. So apparently the crash created some in-game issues.
Okay.
So that's why the guys were crashing into everything, and it looked like we were watching people that were driving blind. Apparently it was actually a technical issue in Assetto Corsa with the accident that happened. We'll get further clarity on that, and maybe if that is the reason for the restart, well then it's a technical restart. Here's a replay below. I'd like to have a look at this. Have a look. Noah Hendricks in the little small replay screen. He's got the pass done. Look there. He's passed him. Done. Turns in. Watch out. Oh. So I don't know. I see what you said, Ernest. You felt
jig to the right there.
Or he didn't start turning to the left. He kept a straight line. So if we, I'd love to see another replay of that if we can.
I'd like to see an angle from behind the car.
Yeah, from above, because maybe Aldo thought that he should have started turning left already. But at the end of the day, should, could, would, I can also choose when to turn. I've made the move. So I can choose to run you out as wide as possible. That's what you do to undercut. You know, I can obviously just brake as late and run you to as wide as I want to on that track. So at the end of the day, it's still the driver's responsibility who's in front. The guy who's behind, it's up to him to make sure that he doesn't cause trouble. So yeah, anyway, a lot of action going on. We'll get clarity on this in terms of, it looked like it was an in-game issue that resulted in extra carnage. So yeah.
Ferrari starts to have a look down the inside there. That was Noah Hendricks having a look down the inside of Bellingham there. Just letting him know. Bellingham goes defensive now as we go into the tight right-hand. A second gear corner this. Ferrari on the outside. He's going to try the undercut. Gets down the inside. Does the Lamborghini. The Lamborghini's got the line going into the long swooping uphill left-hander. And this is as they make their way into the final corner. Now the Lamborghini still in the lead, but Noah Hendricks clearly having the pace on that Lambo there. And Bellingham finding himself under a lot of pressure. The two of them battling it out once again. And I'm sure there's some cursing going on underneath both of these helmets after what happened earlier on.
Oh, geez, I think it's going to be so difficult to refocus, but that's exactly what you have to do, because this isn't a personal grudge now. It's about just, focusing and doing a clean pass and doing what you have to do as a racing driver. Even though you might feel that the guy in front of you put you into a spin. But anyway, haven't lost too much. I mean, what is sad for me, we're sitting with 13 guys. I mean, we think we started with 18. And that's a real pity. We see Jason Isherwood's gone into the pits as well. We saw him have that big incident. Here's another replay here. I just love to see another view of this, because for me, Noah Hendricks doesn't have to take the turn to the left. He's made the pass here already. And he's actually, he's running straight on. He hasn't turned in.
Yeah.
So we'll have a look at that tomorrow, because we might say, hey, he's being very, very naughty. He should have taken the line, and then both that can go through, because you can. Two cars can go through that corner. So well picked up, Ernest. That he kept a straight line. I don't think he turned right. I just think he didn't turn left. He kept a straight line going.
Yeah, the corner does go left. Yeah. And I'm sure he knows that for next time. As we now go on board Jason van Rooyen in the Milk Ferrari. Very hard to miss is the pink Milk Ferrari down in 9th position, chasing down Sean Buck and Wentworth over there just in front in the Lexus. And colleague good there. Let's see if he can catch up. Van Rooyen having some good pace in the week in practice. Just got to translate that into race pace now, as he gets a bit of pressure there now from Adrianza in the Audi in 10th position. This is for top 10 position. And of course, only the top 10 guys get points for the teams.
I was going to say, with that, good thing you brought that up, because literally everyone here is going to score a point at this. We could very well finish with 8 cars. Yeah. It's been a little bit bizarre, the race, but anyway, it's an opportunity for new guys to score maximum points and have new race winners.
Yeah, and Van Rooyen gets taken there by Adrianza in the Audi. Easy move. He has a look down the outside now as they make their way into turn one. Van Rooyen not giving it up that easily. He's going to try and have the inside line for the next corner, but fails. And Adrianza gets ahead into 10th place. Van Rooyen losing out, slots back. It's not over yet. There's still 33 minutes of racing to go as we have Buck Wentworth, Adrianza, Van Rooyen, all line. Oh, Van Rooyen runs a little bit wide there. And now for sure, he's got a bit of a problem now. He's lost the tail of that little group over there.
What's quite cool, that shot was quite nice going to turn one. I mean, you saw how he did that. You can actually run the person out wide. If the person stays on the outside, the racing line obviously was on the inside, but on your exit, you can take your full length of the track on the way out. And anybody that sits on the outside, well, is going to find themselves off track. So that's a risk about sitting on the outside through that turn one. And that was kind of what I felt was happening into turn two. Was Noor just didn't take the turn on that incident. But again, listen, we'll have a look at that in post-race review.
Yeah.
But the battle continues between the two of them. And Aldo's holding on. But we've seen both of these guys are susceptible to making little mistakes under pressure. And the guy at the moment that's under the pressure is Aldo Bellingham. So this for me was when they get onto the start-finish straight, this is where Aldo, he takes an interesting line. For me, he goes in far too early there, because it's a very late apexing turn here, and it seems like he runs in a little bit too tight, too early, which compromises his exit. But who knows? I mean, that's just me.
It certainly does seem that way. That corner, the ideal line, does seem to be a slightly wider approach there. There's a little Marshall's post. The guys use that as the brake marker and turn in for that late apex. So yeah, you're right. But there are many ways to skin a cat, as LaRue skins himself a cat and gets past Riddell there. Riddell going wide there. LaRue goes down the inside. He's been planning this move for a while now as we look at our bottom live screen. And well done to Riddell for getting that position, or at least well done to LaRue for getting that position back.
Yeah, I've just seen Noah make a little mistake coming on the power a little bit too early there, losing the back end of his Ferrari. So that's given Aldo a little bit of breathing space. But like you said, we've got 30 minutes to go in this race. A lot can happen, and essentially will happen. And we haven't even got to tyre wear. I don't know what the tyre wear is like. I don't know if you've chatted to any of the drivers, Ernest, in terms of running simulated lap paces here and duration in terms of what the tyres will be like at the end. So I think we're going to be in for an action-packed 10 minutes. I just hope we've got cars left on track. Because if I look at this little gaggle here, I mean, this is a proper battle for Leon LaRue's leading it there in 5th, and we're probably all the way down to Van Rooyen, I think, in 12th. So that is proper.
Yeah, we've got LaRue in front. We've got Riddell, Buck, Wentworth, Adrianza, Van Rooyen making up the Liner-Stern battle that's taking place here. These drivers all in it over here, and they do seem to be bunching up a little bit. Oh, that's a bit close. That's a bit close. They touch there. Buck gets close to Riddell. Riddell gets a bit of a nudge. He does well to maintain control of the car. It's so easy to lose these cars once they get a nudge, but the man that comes with second best, oh, very much so, is Buck over there, gets moved back 2 positions. He manages to defend from the Audi of Adrianza there. Adrianza takes the outside line, and is Adrianza going to get the run on him into the first corner? Gets back down the inside now, side to side, showing him that he's there. We go on board with two of them.
Shot is great. I mean, that was actually some really good racing by Adrianza. So, yeah, he's just gone and outbraked himself. Such a pity. He did all the hard work. All the hard work was done there. But yeah, listen, that was, I thought Buck was very, very naughty, and Riddell was lucky to get away with that, because I could see it coming. There's no ways he was going to be able to brake for that corner and put his nose in the wrong place. Tapped him on the rear through quarter, which normally ends up in a spin. So well done to Clinton Riddell. He maybe saw him coming and let the car run out a little bit wider. But yeah, that was some good racing, and happily we didn't lose any more guys. I was actually
The racing continues here at Hungary, and one of the things that you mentioned earlier on is track conditions and track temperature. I've got my man Ian McKenzie, who's now sitting in the pit lane watching the racing, giving some lots of, as the action continues here, so much action everywhere. And what's happening? That's the replay of.
So that was our lead move. So Lodger, notice that Lodger is actually leading. So it looks like Albertine in the Porsche made a mistake. It looks like in that down, probably turn 3 or 4 down. And Wentworth's gone and made a mistake there as well. Handing Buck position back again. Adrianza scoring there as well. So that was the lead change. We missed that. We were so busy watching the racing.
Van Rooyen collects Adrianza. There's an incident further back. Van Rooyen has collected Adrianza. And there's carnage all over the circuit here. But you're right, we missed that incident in front there. Albertine just made a silly mistake. And Lodger now 4 seconds in the lead, Marius.
Yeah.
Lodger needs to keep his cool now. He's got a 4-second gap. He's got 28 minutes of racing to go. And a solid first position in the Pro-Am category. It's still early to say, but all he's got to do is hold it together. And he could have his first win in the Pro Series.
Yeah, and I think that's also like this. We said 2 weeks ago in Barcelona, it's a rhythm circuit. So you know, any little mistake, you're going to carry that for the next 2 or 3 corners, and then it's also for you to kind of you upset with yourself and get your mind cleared. And that's what makes this track so difficult, is that you've got to get in that rhythm. You've got to be just logging in those laps, lap time after lap time, super consistent. So he's under no pressure now. He's got nearly a 5-second lead, so he can just view this as a simulation run that he's probably done a couple of times, and just remember, like, that's hard. You're not in a race. He's got to think he's having a Sunday afternoon fun session.
Yeah.
You know? So it's easy. This is his race now to lose. But like sure, Albertine wasn't under pressure and made a silly little mistake. Very, very easy to do. Come on the power a little bit earlier, lose the back end, and you get punished properly.
Well, Bellingen and Noor Hendricks clearly have some of the faster cars on the circuit. So if the two of them play together nicely, they could see themselves catching up with the rest of the pack. Bellingen still 7 seconds down on Albertine as we look at the incident from early on with Van Rooyen getting right up close to, looks like Wentworth over there, touches Adriaanse and Wentworth then nick each other, but the man that comes off worst on that is Jason Van Rooyen, who is now no longer in the race by the looks of things.
Oh my word! I think our Monday incident report, I'm just going to suggest we don't even bother with this race, because there are going to be so many. It's going to be a week incident report instead of a Monday.
You guys better clear your schedule, because there's going to be a lot to talk about.
No, it's just a little bit surprising. I don't know. I actually don't know what's gone on, because you know we've seen such improvements in the racing and the respect that the guys have shown each other and understanding where to put their car when. And then you get to a race like this, and it's like everyone just loses their minds, you know, and start doing some really, really silly things, and it's unfortunate. And I don't think we're going to see it in the pros, because they're pros for a reason. They obviously understand how to play the long game, and they know where on the track you can put your car on, when is a good time to overtake. So it saddens me a little bit. I was looking forward to this ProAM race, and it's just kind of been a bit of one of those funny ones.
One of the battles that is taking place in our screen insert over there, that is Riddell and Buck fighting for 6th position. Buck in 7th, Riddell in 6th as they go through the chicane there, and Buck within striking distance. Riddell has made a couple of small mistakes early on, we've seen, but he now certainly wants to make sure to get 6th or possibly even a top 5 position. Speaking of top 5, Noor Hendricks in our main screen over there, still behind Bellingen, and the gap between Bellingen and Albertine having extended a little bit. So Albertine getting away from Bellingen, because he is now catching Lodger in first position. 2.5 seconds is the gap. Now earlier we saw the gap was 4 seconds, now down to less than 2.5 seconds.
Well picked up, Ernest. I mean, literally in a lap he's gone and carved that down by 2.5 seconds. So he's obviously he's got the pace, and he seems to be an angry man at the moment. He's made a mistake, and he seems super determined. So like we were talking about Lodger, all he's got to do is we were wrong. All he's got to do now is go faster. Yeah, it's a good little battle, because we saw Buck and Riddell having a little coming together earlier, and Riddell managed to survive that, but Adriaanse is joining in this little battle as well. So this is going to be interesting, because
Riddell runs wide. Yeah. Adriaanse gets down the inside, or Buck gets down the inside. We've got Adriaanse looking on as well. Buck seems to have gotten past by the looks of things. He's got the outside line. Is Riddell going to heal as they go into the tight left hand? Riddell does not heal. Runs a little bit wide. Oh no! Buck gets touched by Adriaanse. And Adriaanse is the one that manages to capitalize on this. What is going on here? Buck certainly cannot be happy with that move.
That's also another silly little mistake. But you know what? You know what's great to see there is that, so Riddell made a mistake coming out of turn 1. But notice what he did. I mean, he still had the corner for the left-hander. And all he did was he just took Buck out of that completely, just by running it deeper and braking later, and just making sure that Buck couldn't turn in. So that was awesome. Obviously, the poor person at the back, Adriaanse, wasn't really watching what was happening in front of him, ends up running into the back of Buck. So that's going to be something that needs to be looked at as well, because that's, again, an avoidable incident. But that was great racecraft by Riddell. He realized he made a mistake, but he knows that it's a left-hander coming up. 2 cars can go through it. All I need to do is just run deeper, and I'll take the car on the outside out of that battle completely.
Beautiful stuff. Yeah, that's racecraft right there. And I mean, you want to make the problem of the corner somebody else's problem.
Yep.
And that's exactly what he did. He took that problem and gave it straight back to Buck. And Adrianza, unfortunately, had time to slow down there, but didn't. Saw an opportunity, tried to go down the inside, the door closed, and that was the end of that. Now he is putting pressure on Riddell in the same vein. Adrianza onto the main straight, right on the back of Riddell. What is Riddell going to do into the first corner here? We saw him make a mistake earlier on into that first corner. Will he hold it together this time? Down the inside goes Adrianza. Left-hand lane is Riddell. Riddell's got this one on the wide side of things. Let's see. Adrianza goes through easily. And Riddell has to slot back into 7th position. But
did you see his exit there? So he exited perfectly onto the far side. Now, if Riddell tried to hold on to the outside, because the move was already made, he was going to get run off the track. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's Adrianza's right to do that, because he's actually got the path done. So you don't have to say, oh, buddy, don't worry, I'm going to leave you lots of space here. But he didn't have to. So that was where Clinton had to obviously back out of that. So Adrianza is a man on a mission. Look, obviously not happy with what he did a lap earlier to Buck. But whether that's going to be dealt with in the race in terms of a penalty being issued, probably not. It's probably going to be part of our Monday incident report. But that was a good overtake. And he lined that up. And the Audi's looking super, super fast. We know the Audis generally look after their tyres a lot better. We've got 21 minutes to go. So we're getting to the point where tyres can start becoming a bit of a factor. But the battle with Noah Hendricks and Aldo Bellingham, I mean, this has been on for the last
Still going strong.
10 laps or so, and it's unrelenting.
I've been wanting to touch on this tire thing with you for a while. As I said, I'm getting some info from my man Ian McKenzie from the pit lane, and he was telling me that because of the temperatures and the time that the guys are running, because they're running in the early or later evening, the track conditions are good. The Porsches will suffer as always, but not to the extent we've seen before. So the drivers should be able to make it all the way through to the finish line. And the 2 cars that are going to be battling it out for that finish line will more than likely be 2 Porsches anyway. So yeah, we might see them slow down a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be as catastrophic as it has been in the past.
Well, I don't know if Lodger heard me in saying all he's got to do is go faster, because he has. He's gone and extended that gap again to nearly 4 seconds. So maybe it made a mistake. Maybe that's why we saw Albertine carve off 2.5 seconds, but it's back to just over 4 seconds now. So yeah, I'm sure it must have been a mistake that Lodger went and made.
Yeah,
but
I'm looking at Lodger's times now. He's got a 1:45 as his fastest time. His last lap is 1:46.2. 1:45.6 is Albertine's fastest time. Slightly off, but Albertine in his previous lap did a 1:47 and is now going even slower than that. So I think Albertine might be pushing a little bit too hard. The Ferrari gets sideways there on your screen.
Over that bump, you see, he took too much curb on that exit of that chicane, and that unsettled the rear of the Ferrari big time. I'll be honest, it's a pity that we're running back-to-back races in similar conditions, when I assumed we'd run time of day, as opposed to running now into the evening. Because that's what this track is notorious for. We end up sitting in a condition where there is proper tyre wear, because it's usually hot, it's dry, it's dusty, so the tyres do go off. But now, like you're saying, Mackenzie correctly points it out, with track temperatures dropping, it's just going to make sure the tyre life is extended. And it's a pity, because I would have liked to have seen some action come the end of the race. Not in ProAM, so we've had enough action. We've only got 12 people left. But I think in the pros, it would have become a real interesting battle where it's normally Porsche dominated. It would have been interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah. We've just got confirmation now from our producer Daniel that Pro will happen during the day. So the Pro race will take place, and we can hopefully see some of that catastrophic tyre wear that really does affect outcomes of races. We've spoken to guys like Bash, who does ride the front of the car and uses the front tires to much success, as we've seen in the past. And he said that in the second half of the race, he does suffer a little bit of degradation, and so does Essa. So it's interesting to see it's going to be interesting to see what happens during the day later on, as Buck now has a look on Riddell once again. Sean Buck chasing down Riddell. Riddell this time closing the door, and Sean Buck back in it now, chasing down the number 7 place Riddell, sparks flying out from underneath that car there as they make their way through that right hand and now into the first of the chicanes here. A quick left over this section over here. And Riddell running a little bit wide there. Sean Buck biding his time. Riddell under quite a bit of pressure now as Sean Buck runs wide, and the guys seem to be all over the place here through this section.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. It's interesting they made that call to run the pros at a different time. I think it's amazing because it's going to give us a real race scenario here. But this is a battle. We saw there was a little coming together probably about 5 laps ago, and Buck ended up being the big loser there when Adrianza tapped him from behind. But he's clearly got the pace on Riddell, but it's about finding the right place to do the move, and here is not the right place. So it's about being patient. They're both in Porsches. So just make sure that you exit out of that final turn, and we're coming up to this last little complex now. Make sure you're all over the back of him, your exit spot on, and you nail it into turn 1. Don't try and put your nose in place that you shouldn't be, because it's not that type of track. So this is going to be crucial for this. He needs to nail this.
Well, the car behind them is a back marker. That's Murphy. That's further down. Behind that is Wentworth in the Lexus. He's looking on at the action a little bit further up the road. Buck getting slowed up quite a bit here in this tussle, so that might give Wentworth a chance to have a look. He does, though, have Murphy in the Audi between him as he tries to make his way past. But the two of these guys certainly are going to battle it out now. And I think for sure, as you say, Buck does have the pace on. Oh, Riddell runs wide again. This is exactly what we saw early on. Now, will these guys have learned from their previous mistakes as they go side by side? Oh, it cuts across. A dangerous maneuver there from Riddell. Riddell cuts across once again. And this time, though, Buck gets past. And that was quite a silly maneuver there from Riddell. He should have just stayed on the inside if you ask me.
But what was happening in the background, I don't know if you saw James Murphy smashed into the back of Wentworth as well, outbraked him.
Oh, my goodness.
So as someone that's been in the pits getting his car fixed, he comes back, he's not involved in the race, stay out of it, and goes and runs into the back of Wentworth. So Wentworth was spun there while the action was happening through turn 2 with these two. But yeah, I think Riddell just outbraked himself going into turn 2, and that gave the opportunity to Buck to get past. But this for me is right, because Buck has had the pace. He was very unlucky with that incident with Adrianza that saw him spin around. So he, for me, is rightly where he needs to be ahead of Riddell, because he's got the pace. I don't know if he's going to be able to make anything on that gap that Adrianza's got over him now. We'll have a look. But Adrianza quite far up the road. You can see him there through the right-hander already and getting ready to enter the second last corner. So let's see what happens. We've got 16 minutes to go in this race. But the gap up front is kind of stabilized at the 4.5 second mark between Lodger and Albertine. And that battle with Bellingham and Hendricks is still ongoing. Of course it is. We go back on board. But not on his tail anymore. He seems to have dropped back. And this for me is also crucial, because obviously you don't want to be sitting in the dirty air. Once you're out of the back of a car, going to put massive issues on your tyre wear on the front end. So maybe that's what Noah's feeling now, is that he's been sitting too close. But we're going to see a replay with what happened at the back with Murphy running into the back of him. Have a look at this.
And Murphy, bear in mind, is a back marker in this situation. So, yeah, that is unfortunate.
I don't think that was that Murphy? No, it wasn't Murphy.
That was Murphy, yeah.
Was it?
That was Murphy, yeah. Murphy and Wentworth, yeah. Murphy was a back marker, got overtaken on the main straight. He actually let Wentworth through and then outbraked himself into the back of him. So unfortunate there that had to play out that way. Noor Hendricks lights ablaze now behind the Lamborghini, and this has been a place he's been sitting for a good solid few minutes, Marius. This has been going on for quite some time.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. I don't know what his tyre life's going to be like. Like I was saying, I mean, you're running in the dirty air. So it's going to be a lot harder to get that front end to grip, and that's what ends up happening. You find yourself with 10 minutes to go in the race and you've got no front end grip anymore. So we've seen Noah, look at that, we've seen Noah drop off a little bit. He was a lot closer. So I don't know, this is the hard thing. It's like when you have the opportunity and you get on the back of the guy, you've got to make that move done, because you don't want to be following a guy for 10 minutes like he's been doing. But it's a notoriously difficult circuit for overtaking. I mean, that's what we've been seeing today. The guys are struggling to get the passes done, and it's more a case of a guy making a mistake from the pressure as opposed to a really good clean overtake being set up.
It does look like the Lamborghini is very fast on the straight bits, though, and I think Moo's not able to get anywhere near to him going into, as you said, the best braking or the best overtaking opportunity turn 1. So he only gets closer in the tighter sections by the looks of things. and just not within that distance to make that move, and very frustrating for him. And now Bellingham, I'm sure, starting to get a bit more confident, knowing that he can keep that Ferrari behind him without much hassle.
Yeah, I think that's great because, I mean, that's all you want. You know, you've given the guy lots of opportunity to get past you and he can't. So, yeah, but this is awesome. We're up front now with our leader, Benjamin Lodger. Great job. And look, he's got extended that lead to 5.5 seconds. And Ernest is doing exactly what you were saying. It's just about getting into that rhythm, getting your lap done. You've been gifted the first place. You were in there with a battle in second. One guy makes a mistake, the leader, you leading the race now. And we haven't been on board with him much. But looking at his lap times, he's been consistent. He hasn't been making mistakes, and that
He is certainly able to do that. He's certainly able to put in those consistent lap times. He does, however, I've worked a little bit with him, and one of the things that he does do is make silly mistakes at silly times, and that's something he's personally been working on. And clearly, we can see that that's the case here. He's struggled to adapt from the Formula One, the speed and the technique, to sports car racing in the sim. But I do think he's got the raw talent to be able to do very well in the ProAM series and the Pro series. So I look forward to seeing him migrate over soon. But a win certainly will help for his confidence and give him that little bit of a boost going into future races.
But you see, the nice thing now is he's under zero pressure. So that is when you say where the guys, you know, are prone to making silly little mistakes. Well, that's usually when they're chasing too hard or they under pressure with someone all over the back of them. You know, now is literally a simulated run. There's no one around him. He may as well have the track to himself because it isn't even a full field. He doesn't have to worry about back markers at this stage. So it is just about putting in his practice run. He's got a 50-minute session and he's just clocking in the laps. And I think if he keeps that mindset, you know, this is going to be his first race win, which is awesome. We're coming up to like the nearly 10-minute mark. So this has been a great race. And he's taken the opportunities, looking super clean, not taking any silly chances, and he doesn't need to with a 6-second gap to second place.
Of course not. He's got now 6 seconds in hand, 5.9 seconds to be exact. And someone that doesn't have 5.9 seconds is Bellingham, who's only got a second ahead of Hendricks, who is now on a charging lap, going a little bit quicker this time. And Bellingham runs wide. Bellingham runs very wide there. I think there was a bit of a glitch in the system there, looks like.
Yeah, I was like a glitch. Going, yes, but he came back online quickly.
I know the Lamborghinis handle well, but I don't think they handle that well.
You know, the thing is, I'm just watching Noah Hendricks. I mean, he's the only guy that kind of hits the middle of that sausage curb on the exit of that chicane and unsettles his car every time. And then the next corner he ends up, you know, 2 wheels on the dirt. So he doesn't look like he's just putting in good, clean, consistent laps. It's like he's pushing too hard to try and get hold of all the making the mistakes.
One of the conversations I've had with a lot of the drivers lately is pushing too hard. We've all used that term before, on the push now. And with a simulator, it's not the same. In a real car, you can feel when you're pushing that 2% harder in every corner, just a little bit harder in every corner. It's very difficult to do that in a sim. So one actually has to practice one's abilities rather than just push harder. So if you can do a 145.6 and you push harder, you're not going to do a 145.4. You need to figure out how to do a 145.4 first. And what I find is that when the guys push harder, their times actually slow down. So the idea is, you're exactly right. Find that rhythm. What makes you do your best time? Do that.
But that's what's so hard, because I mean, we talk in real terms about overdriving a car. So easy to go and do that. Yeah. But that's the bit that I'm fascinated by with simulator racing, is like what you've got to use to be able to make yourself go fast is like what you read, what your eyes are seeing, the feel you get through the wheel. Yeah, we get that too. But I mean, we also talk about, like I mentioned earlier, the bums in seats. You can feel what the car is doing underneath you. Now the guys don't have that because they're strapped to their couch or they're sitting in their simulator seat that isn't moving. So none of those G-force factors are influencing their overall experience of what the car is doing. Yes. And my feeling is, if you can take a top simulator driver, and we've seen the success over the years, and you put them into real racing, their ability to read data and what visually they're able to take in is absolutely amazing. But that's what makes racing so hard.
Yeah, well, I look forward to seeing some of our guys make the migration over. Oh, Duggan and Riddell now tussling, as Duggan has a look there at Riddell. Duggan in 9th position. The racing continues all the way down. all the way down as Duggan gets up close and personal. The lights now coming on brightly, and the guys now starting to go into full nighttime conditions now. Oh, big moment there from Duggan, side by side. Riddell goes defensive, and now going up towards the final corner before the start-finish line.
Yeah, Riddell seems to have really seems to be struggling with his pace. He's dropped way off the back of Buck. If you remember, they were in that little battle, so he just seems to be holding on. Maybe his setup's a little bit different, and that's why he's struggling with tyre wear at this stage, because he has a Porsche behind him. Duggan, we've seen him do really well in previous rounds, hasn't really been present at this race, but coming late in the game with 8 minutes to go, and suddenly he's got some pace. So maybe his setup is a little bit different, that he's got a car that's still got some good tyres, but the Porsche ahead of him doesn't seem to have much grip at the moment. Clinton Riddell really holding on desperately, running wide, outbraking himself again and opening up the door, and Duggan saying, thank you very much, I'll take that.
Yeah, Duggan's got no issues taking that position. Wentworth now also having a look there. Wentworth gets past Riddell as well, and at least some good news for Wentworth there in the Lexus. He's had not the best of days today, getting taken out earlier on by that Audi, and now Wentworth at least in the top 10, making up position number 9.
Ernest, quite interesting seeing that as well, because obviously Buck was offline, and I think he was really worried about running into the back of Duggan there, and he obviously came on the brakes, but he came on the brakes too hard, because you saw he actually braked far too hard for that corner, and that's what went with the run. And that's what's also difficult, because I find when you really are sitting in the car, it's so much easier to feel that speed and to feel what you're doing. And I think, I mean, he did the right thing, not wanting to tangle. He knows the pass has been made, but ended up compromising and losing another position by braking a little bit too hard. But we've come back on the action here, and it seems like Noah Hendricks has found a second lease on life with 6.5 minutes to go, because he was all over the back of Bellingham. That gap was about a second. It's come down to half a second now. So, yeah, we could still be in for a grandstand finish for the final podium position. But Benjamin Lodger out front looking amazing. 5-second gap over Franco Albertine. So it's a Porsche 1-2 at this stage. But is it going to be which Italian? The Lamborghini or the Ferrari in their final?
Well, he's only got 6.5 minutes to figure that out. So Hendricks now has to make something happen. He's got 6 minutes to sort this problem out, and this is a big Lamborghini-sized problem in front of him, as Bellingham doing a sterling job of defending all the way through. There's that bump again, Marius. You were talking about earlier on the Ferrari absolutely bottoming out over that bump there. He might do well to raise that car a little bit, I think. But as we make our way now through the sweeping corners here, Bellingham taking a very different line to Hendricks here. Hendricks a little bit compromised into the right-hander there. I think he's going to fall off the back of Bellingham a little bit.
Yeah, he takes a tighter line through there, and he actually doesn't need to. He's going to let the car naturally run to where it wants to go with the speed that you're taking. He seems to be holding on a bit tight, and for me also, maybe taking too much of the curb on the inside. It's like that's not going to help your line. So Aldo certainly looked cleaner through there, but Hendricks has come back. These last two corners, he seems to have quite well lined up and set up. But there he goes and runs himself a little bit wide, so that's his exit compromised. So Bellingham will be fine. There he is, raced away.
I just think his approach into the corners, he's not going wide enough on his corner entry, and that's with these cars. You unfortunately have to run a late apex on a lot of these corners, unless you're turning into the corner hard on the brakes, trail braking. But generally, with those type of corners, you got to run wide, then you got to turn in and get a late apex. And unfortunately, he's taking time away from himself by not going on the correct lines here, where I think on a good lap, I think Hendricks might be faster than Bellingham.
Yeah, but it's just about putting that, it's all good and well being fast in some sections, but you've got to consistently over 15 minutes put all of those corners together to have a perfect lap. And that's the thing. Sometimes it's about, I think he just he runs with too much speed into the corner, and that's what ends up compromising him on the exit too. But what is interesting going on board with Wentworth and the Lexus, he looks to have some real pace through the technical tight section. So maybe the Porsches are struggling now with tyre wear. On the straight, he obviously had plenty of pace down there and pulled the gap. We know that Lexus isn't the fastest, but Wentworth does seem to have a car that's stopping and turning very well through the fast flowing. But yes, it'd be nice to see if he can close up in the back of Duggan as well. And Wentworth obviously wanting to score as many points as possible here. So this could be interesting to watch with 4 minutes to go.
4 minutes to go indeed. We got Wentworth now chasing down Duggan. Wentworth much faster through that section than Duggan over there, getting a little bit up close and personal with Duggan. The gap now 0.7 of a second. But
couldn't stop the Porsche there. He's actually gone and run quite wide, and that Lexus closing right up again. But where the Porsche is lucky, it seems to get good exit speed where it matters, which is onto the start finish, and that saves him. But look at Wentworth closing up here. This is what we picked up on the previous lap. He really looks racy through the section. So Lexus is stopping and turning very, very well. Duggan running out wide again, so I think he's struggling with grip at this point.
Well, Duggan now just less than half a second in front. This is what we're talking about, 3.5 minutes left to go. You're talking about a grandstand finish. This could be one of them. And this could be a chase down to the checkered flag. Duggan under an extreme amount of pressure. He's been dishing out the pressure for most of this race, but now finally he gets a little bit of his own medicine. Wentworth now in the stunning looking Lexus.
Look at that. Look how he was able to turn in and hold that line. That front wasn't washing at all. And watch his drive out here. Hopefully lines this thing up. But now this is where the Porsche, look at that. The Porsche gets great exit speed, and that's where the Lexus seems to struggle. But on those tight turns, the front end turning on that Lexus looks so sweet. It's able just to hold that line. So that's interesting. But I mean, everyone here today is going to score points. That's the good news, because have a look at he literally got 10 cars running.
You get a point. Oh, Wentworth much faster through that section this time. He really is quite quick through the technical bits. And one of the other drivers that is in the Lexus, that's Wezer. He's got a Twitch stream. You can check him out on Twitch or Wezer. He's in the Lexus in the Pro category, and also talks about the fact that the Lexus is actually one of the good cars. In fact, when the game was released, it was one of the better cars. It's since been BOP'd a little bit, but in the tighter sections, it does do really well. The engine, however, is quite lazy on the straight bits, and even on a short straight here, we can see that being the case.
Oh, no, listen, that car looks so, for me, it just looks really balanced, and he doesn't seem to be fighting with it at all. It's turning exactly where he wants it to, and that's great. But I mean, look, he straight lined that, even taking the bump, he had no problem with that. But I think he's going to run out of time here. I think it's going to be Duggan making a mistake, feeding the pressure on Wentworth. That's going to see him getting the position, because I just don't think that Lexus has the opportunity down the straight to get that pass done. And we know through here, it's basically a super tube. You know, you're just hanging on for the ride and following the circuit. There's no opportunities for overtaking through here.
Yeah, exactly. Stuck on the back of the car in front. And it's important for the drivers to know where the overtaking opportunities exist. And you don't have to defend everywhere. And rightly so, Marius. They say, Wentworth gets it very sideways there and loses it there. And that's the end of that. Wentworth gets overtaken by Nadal, who now is smiling all the way into 9th position.
Man, that's such a pity. But great points, Ernest. I think that's what the guys need to realize, and we saw it at Barcelona too, is that you don't need to defend everywhere, because the guy can't overtake you there. And if he does end up doing something, it's his fault. He should then be penalized for it, because we see a lot of guys are too busy watching mirrors through here, there, and everywhere, but they're not overtake opportunities. So just focus on that and only worry about doing your defending at the points that you know. What makes it easy in Barcelona is it literally is one main place to overtake. So for you, it's about making sure that everything you're doing on the lap is ensured when you exit that final turn, you've opened up enough of a car length gap that you don't have to worry about coming under pressure under brakes for turn 1.
Well, Adrianza, the only person under even a little bit of pressure at the moment, as Buck makes a mistake. Adrianza pulls off there. Adrianza makes something goes wrong with Adrianza. He pulls off the circuit, and oh no, he's in the pits. He goes to the pits. Maybe a technical glitch on his computer there, as Buck goes through into 6th position. As we go on board with Lodgia now, he's got one more lap to go. This is the final lap for Benjamin Lodgia. He's going to be so happy. Let's not get tangled up with this back marker in front here.
This is the last thing that he needs.
That's the very last thing. That's Adrianza over there. Adrianza obviously ran out of fuel. Adrianza ran out of fuel, must be the case.
But you know what? That's cool, because he's done the right thing, because there are only 10 cars running. He's going to score points. So, you know, you can't have a DNF here, but well done. He's got out of the way. He's let the leader through. So well done, Adrianza. That for me is awesome, because that's the last thing Benjamin needs to be worrying about, is some guy that's coming out of the pits frustrated, maybe he ran out of fuel, who knows what happened, but probably the case, and not really worried, focused on what's happening around him, and takes out our race leader. So Adrianza must just stay well out of the way, because he's scoring points anyway.
Lodgia maintaining a slow pace here, but very smooth. His driving style is exceptionally smooth there, as Adrianza comes up all the way onto the back of him. I think Lodgia really is taking it easy now. He knows this is the final lap. He is corners away from his first win here in the ATK Pro Series. I'm sure he is throwing his fist up in his car over there. Just got to make it through to the finish line. We've all been in this position. We've got a couple of corners to go before the win is certain, but the race isn't over yet. It's not over until she sings, and she hasn't quite sung yet. He goes into the right hand, and now the last two corners beckon. Benjamin Loddia, the first-time winner at the 80K event, and first-time winner in the Pro-Am category, makes his way now through to the final turn. The Pro Series, of course, brought to you by ATK, Logitech, Corsair, and AMD. Of course, the Kyalami 9L, but the man of the moment, Benjamin Loddia, across the line, takes it, goes up against the pit wall, shakes his fist in the air, and gets his first win at the ATK Pro Series. Albertine across the line in second place, 6 seconds back. Bellingham managing to hold off the charging Noor Hendricks in his Raging Bull over there. And Noor Hendricks in fourth position. Mr. Consistency right behind him there. Oh, Leon Leroux. I think if Leon Leroux had a couple extra laps, he might have done a bit more with that, don't you think?
I think Noor Hendricks made a mistake because, I mean, there was a massive gap between Aldo crossing the line and Noor Hendricks. So I think he made a mistake somewhere. And we actually, I think that was quite interesting with that final result. A little back here, Clinton Riddell having a Wentworth coming back at Clinton. Remember, he made that little mistake and gifted that position. And have a look, Riddell's going to run wide. It's going to be interesting. And
they're going to the final corner. Riddell has it. Riddell goes defensive into the last corner. They go, who's going to take this one? Wentworth not giving up even after all of that drama. Wentworth's got to run down the straight, but the Porsche's fast. We know that much. The Porsche in the leads are far. Off they go. Oh, they touch. Across the line they go. But Riddell takes it by half a car. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it from us for the Pro-Am category. I'm going to calm down and take a break, and I will see you guys right after this when we talk about the results and head into the next category Pro race. We'll see you guys then.
Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me. Now we're saying I've been going to the top and I got what they not, so I know that they hate that. All these men gonna zone out. All these men gonna take what I did and they twist and they work till I fall out. But I know that, so I keep what I'm doing cause I own that. And I stay in the lab and I kill everything, but I don't ever move from my phone. So I'm finally back in my home. I'm working and I don't know if that's my hand. Hands to my phone, keep me up cause I'm back in my zone now.
Having a great start and almost banging wheels.
Cause I'm back in my zone now.
Don't get greedy now, mate. Let's get settled down.
Oh, and it's so nice to see Benjamin Loddia on the top spot of the podium. I remember seeing him ride at ATK for the first time, and I actually spoke to Warren about him. I think he's got some pace, and he has proven that right today. Benjamin Loddia takes his first win in the ATK Pro Series in the Pro-Am category in a Porsche Albertine there in second position, and Bellingham, a young, dashing-looking Bellingham there in third position in the Lamborghini. What are your thoughts on the formation at the end after all of that carnage, Marius?
Well, look, Benjamin Lodgia, for me, had a race. We never mentioned him because he wasn't doing anything silly, never got involved in any incidents, capitalized when he had to, and was just super, super consistent. So I think he deserves that top spot. Obviously, Frank Albertine was leading at one stage in the race, made that one mistake that handed the lead. But also a good race there. And we were just talking about it now during the quick break. I mean, we know there was lots of drama with the race being restarted, and apparently it was a server issue. So that then makes sense. It wasn't an issue in terms of race incidents, and that's why, you know, the clerk of the course decided to do what he did. But it was action-packed, and I'm just hoping that we're going to have an action-packed race on track for the pros. But I know Aldo Bellingham will be very happy for that third position in his Lambo. He's under massive pressure for most of the race from Noor Hendricks. He was our pole sitter. That's where he qualified. A guy that's obviously raced in pros quite a bit, but the last 2 rounds has been in Pro-Am. He'll be happy to be on the podium for sure.
For sure, he's happy to be on the podium. And Wow, that podium position was up for grabs there by quite a few people. We had two different races earlier on. We had the red flag racing, we had the second restart, and things could have shuffled around quite a bit. But one man that in the first corner came off second best every time was Benjamin Loddia, but he kept his head down, kept his head in it. And it's so important to stay in it. It's so important to mentally stay in the game. And Benjamin Lodgia, I think he can be proud of that, because I know for a fact that's something that he's been working on, and he's now literally seeing the fruits of their labor by taking his first win in the Pro Series.
Yeah, 50 minutes is a long time to concentrate, and on a technical track like this, where it's a rhythm circuit, easy to make a little mistake, lose your rhythm and lose places. So that for me is brilliant, and people don't understand that mental aspect of motorsport, the pressure you're under when you are leading and you've got 5 laps to go and you think, I could be winning my first race. There's mental pressure there. There's pressure when you're chasing someone, when you're being chased. And also just mental fatigue, being able to concentrate and just keep that focus for 50 minutes isn't easy. These guys had to do it for longer, because they also ran for probably 4 or 5 minutes in the beginning before the restart. So a lot of drama, and you've got to refocus through all of that and say, okay, I'm rebooting, let's go. So, well done. It was interesting round 8 at Hungaroring. I like the circuit from a driving perspective, not always the greatest from a racing perspective. But I'm thinking the pro race is going to be a cracker, because as we heard, we're going to be running in daytime settings, not into early evening like we did here with the ProAMs.
Yeah, no, that pro race is going to be insane. I'm looking at the names and the list of drivers that are going to be taking part in front of me now. It is going to be an absolute cracker. And we're just waiting for those results to come up, and then we're going to chat to you guys about that. But yeah, the
results are cool, Ernest. Everyone who raced today scored points.
Yes. Everyone's a winner. Everyone's a winner.
It's actually sad that we ended up with literally 10 cars on a field of 18 to start. And I mean, the field used to be 30. So, we mentioned that right in the beginning. But yeah, anyway, that's awesome. I don't know. Hopefully we get to chat to Benjamin, because it'll be nice to just see how he feels after his first race, when apparently we do have an interview lined up with him. So as soon as he comes online, it'll be great to see how Benjamin's feeling. Benjamin.
How's it, Ernest?
Hey. That was Marius. Marius and I we're both excited to speak to you, because this is your first win. How are you feeling, man?
Thanks. It was, very unexpected, to be honest. I just came in the race trying to keep it clean, trying to keep it consistent. And
you did.
Yeah, well, it was a little tough. I was running on a couple of warnings there at the end. So if I went out the track one more time, I was going to get the drive-through penalty. So I was trying my best to keep it so clean.
But Benjamin, that's quite interesting for me. So where are the tricky areas here? Because, like some of the circuits, it's quite clear. They're the little cones they put there, if you exceed that, you get a warning. Where is the set of course at Hungaroring proving problems for exceeding track limits? Which part of the track?
So I usually, on the opening lap, try to run wide into turn 1 just in case anyone's trying to dive bomb. So I think I got 1 for that. And then at the beginning, we had a bit of a battle with the other 3 drivers in front of us, and trying to keep up. I actually went wide, so that was the second one. And then in the middle sector, after you coming off
and the chicane?
Yeah, sort of the chicane, the second bend after the chicane, if you hit the curb, it runs you out wide, and then you can easily go off the track limits. The Porsche is quite sensitive to those curves.
Can I tell you, we were watching on board the last couple of laps of you, and like the aerial shot, and you were looking super consistent. And maybe in a way, knowing that you've got that hanging over you, saw you kind of backing off a little bit in terms of not being as aggressive, but you ended up clocking in some really impressive lap times and extended that lead over Albertine in second. So it is a rhythm circuit, and you look to have a really good rhythm with the last 10 minutes in the race.
Yeah, well, I had my best. I think definitely inside I was stressing more than what it looked on the aerial shot.
I was saying that I'm sure that you were pumping your fist in your seat as you crossed the finish line there. I know you've been putting a lot of time and effort into this, as much as you can, being a student and all. And well done, man. Just an incredible performance. And, we saw you running wide there. We didn't know that was intentional on that first corner. We were a bit concerned that you did it twice in a row. But as you said, you did that on purpose.
Yeah, no, definitely trying to keep it safe. Sometimes the drivers behind you get a little bit close in the mirror and you never really know what they're going for. So I just play conservative.
Indeed. That's exactly what you needed to do, I think, because we saw what happened to the guys that didn't play it conservative. Benjamin Lodgia, well done on your first win. I'm sure it's the first of many. Congratulations. I'm sure you feel good. Enjoy popping the virtual champagne, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you very much. Cool.
Awesome stuff. We've now got Aldo Bellingham coming in, the man that put it on the front row of the grid in that Lamborghini early on. And again, if this was a beauty contest, then that Lamborghini for sure would have won, Marius.
I thought you were talking about Aldo. We will talk we'll talk about the car as well. But
He is a handsome young fella.
and he's from PE as well. It must be something in our water. I'm actually quite keen to have a chat to him just about that first start. Luckily, we got the race red flag. But Aldo's joining us now. Aldo, how's it going?
Good in yourself.
Good. Listen, we're not going to get into the technical issues around the restart and the server, but you must be happy that did happen, because you got yourself caught out on that start after putting such a good qualifying lap together. Quite difficult to get yourself into the right spot in the box in the game, yeah?
Yeah, I seem to have had a bit of an issue. I'll rewatch my stream to just check where the error came in, and I'll just try and fix it for the next race.
What's it like? I mean, we spoke a bit during the race. You know, you've obviously spent a lot of time racing in the pros, dropping down into pro in the last 2 rounds. But I mean, this is what you want. If you're coming down to the pros, you know you've got pro pace, but it's about obviously getting to race in the front and getting on the podium and building some confidence that way.
Yeah, so that was the initial plan of it. Racing in the middle of the pack does get a bit frustrating at times, getting in collisions that you don't want to get into. So I opted to just hop onto the ProAM a little bit, race in the front half, and just check what happens. And luckily today came off with quite a good result.
You had a proper battle with Noah Hendricks. I think probably out of a 50-minute race, probably 30 minutes of that race, you had a Ferrari filling your mirrors. Quite difficult for you to kind of zone out of that. Noah was making a couple of mistakes, you were making a couple of mistakes, but it made for some good racing for us.
Yeah, that Ferrari really made my heart race for most of that race, and I was just trying to keep him off as much as possible. Luckily, no collisions, so amazing racing from Hendricks, not colliding with me. There were some close calls, but we luckily managed to keep it clean.
Yeah, the pressure that he was applying to you was just immense. And we were discussing that earlier on. There's a certain mindset that comes with chasing. There's a certain mindset that comes with being chased. And there certainly is a mindset that comes with having someone pressure you for 10, 15, 20 minutes like that. I mean, what was going through your mind at the time?
I knew I just had to keep him at the rear as long as possible and overheat his brakes and tires, and it worked at the end. I saw he dropped off a little bit, not sure if that was due to tire wear, but I managed to get a gap at the end, luckily. But yeah, I was very concentrated on my rear view mirror for about half an hour.
It's a good, because we actually mentioned that I mean, the last thing you want to be doing is lap after lap following a guy in front. You just are going to chow your tires and find it with 10 minutes to go hard to stop and turn the car. But do you find, I mean, the circuit, we know it's very difficult to overtake, and literally it's about gearing up the exit for onto the start finish to have a chance through turn 1. But I mean, is that not a case for you guys as a driver where you know the guy can't get past me through the middle section, so I don't need to worry about my mirrors? I can actually just focus on putting in the right lap. Whereas I think a lot of times, Ernest and I were talking about it, guys are too busy going defensive and watching what's happening when the guy can't overtake you through this part of the circuit.
Yeah, definitely the middle part of the circuit. I myself, I was lacking pace for some reason, and every lap he would close onto me very closely in the middle sector. So I wasn't too worried about taking hard defensive lines because, as you said, it's very difficult. And trying for overtake, there's a big chance of a collision. So I was slightly in the middle sector looking, but those swerving corners, I was just trying to get the best exit that I possibly can to manage and get a good gap on him on the straights.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what you managed to do, get that gap in the end. I for sure thought that he was going to try and make a move later on, and it's commendable to be able to absorb that kind of pressure and then come back after what happened in the first race. You managed to clear your head. You managed to get head down, get that third position in the Lambo. And that's one of the highest places we've seen for the Lamborghini so far. So really well done on that, Mr. Bellingham. We'll see you at the next race.
Thank you very much.
Awesome stuff. Albertine in second position, as mentioned earlier on. But Marius, so far these guys, there was a little bit of carnage in amateurs. I'm hoping, in the Pro-Am at least, I'm hoping that the pros don't do the same thing.
Well, look, I mean, it's now been cleared up. It was obviously quite difficult for us today because poor Daniel, who's doing our directing, is kind of feeding us information as he gets it. But we don't have Jonathan Bence as clerk of the course. We had an MSA official doing that. But it seemed like the call was made to red flag, which made no sense from the racing perspective. But obviously it had to happen because of a technical issue with the server. So that's why that ended up happening. And that takes away a lot of the incidents. But there were a couple of silly little mistakes, guys falling over each other and running into the back of guys. But what for me was sad was that we lost quite a few drivers as a result. But I mean, everyone got to score points today as a result because we only had like the 10 guys finishing it. But yeah, Benjamin will be stoked with his first race when I think we're going to see plenty more of it. What was interesting for me is the Porsches had pace. If I look further down the field, we know the top two, but the guys did seem to be struggling with grip, and that was in a track that was cool. The sun had set. The pros aren't going to be the same, and that pro race is coming up next, and that's going to be a cracker.
Indeed. Pro race coming up next, and I literally am rubbing my hands together. I cannot wait to see what happens. 30 of the fastest sim races in South Africa gonna be taking each other on. You guys saw what the circuit looks like. You saw what it looks like when they're racing, but now you're going to see the real deal. Stay tuned, folks, because the Pro Series will be back after this.